Thursday morning when the John Justice Show, presented by American Experiment, gets underway live at the top of the hour. In the meantime, enjoy the AI overlords.
At the country club here, they're passing notes in blue, talking party colors like they're overdue. The old brass on the wall keeps asking what went wrong, but the new crew smiles soft and hums a borrowed song. Now the table's turning slow with a polished, patient glow. Everybody in the room feels the current start to grow. Communism Kool-Aid, sipping by the poolside. Communism Kool-Aid, say it with a straight face. Voters in the cool shade, passing cups around the parade. Communism Kool-Aid, and nobody knows what to say. Hillary's by the phone with a careful, worried look, reading every headline like a line she didn't book. She sees the banner shift, she hears the easy cheer, and the whole old playbook starts to fog up in the rear. Now the table's turning slow with a polished, patient glow. Everybody in the room feels the current start to grow. Communism Kool-Aid, sipping by the poolside. Communism Kool-Aid, say it with a straight face. Voters in the cool shade, passing cups around the parade. Communism Kool-Aid, and nobody knows what to say. The marina keeps on shining while the arguments roll on. One side calls it progress, one side says the game is gone, and the tide keeps washing in like it owns the whole boardwalk. Smile State magazine bright while the dinner circles tall. Communism Kool-Aid, sipping by the poolside. Communism Kool-Aid, say it with a straight face. Voters in the cool shade, passing cups around the parade. Monday talk hit hard like a match in dry grass. Words crossed the room fast and nobody took it back. 3 months till the vote, still the air turned black. The names got thrown around and they came right back. You can shout all day, you can paint that fear, but the crowd still sees what's really near. Ballot box fire, ballot box fire. You can't scare truth down. Ballot box fire, ballot box fire. We see through the smoke now. Democrats got dragged with a label and a sneer. Socialist, communist, same old drum in our ear. But the street outside got its own reply. Moms at the crosswalk, kids with sharp eyes. You can sell that storm, you can sell that blame, but the same old trick has a tired frame. Ballot box fire, ballot box fire. You can't scare truth down. Ballot box fire, ballot box fire. We see through the smoke now. Let the panic talk, let the headlines spin. People know a mask when it's stretched too thin. Not every loud mouth tells the whole damn room. Not every dark word turns the day to doom. Whoa, 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 whoa. Ballot box fire, ballot box fire. You can't scare truth down. Ballot box fire, ballot box fire. We see through the smoke now. Monday talk fades out, but the vote still stands. Same old fear gets sold in the same old hands. The best part of waking up is knowing Kamala lost to Trump.
I don't know if you've seen this or not, but earlier this week, you had Governor Jim Walz signed an executive order to protect the boundary waters, right? It expires 90 days after he leaves office, which can't come soon enough. We talked with Lieutenant Governor candidate on the Lisa Damuth campaign, Ryan Wilson, a bit about this yesterday, but the backlash is growing. Good morning to producer Devin. Good to see you this morning, sir. The backlash is growing to this. Pete Stauber making comments out there. Representative Tom Emmer, who won't be on the show this week, but hopefully he'll be back next week. We're getting back on schedule for his weekly appearances on the show. A lot of frustration and a lot of questions that we talked about yesterday regarding the motivations of Governor Jim Walz. Why would he go and make a move like this to take it off of Amy Klobuchar's plate? So that she can rescind it when she gets into office and look like a hero, or if Damuth were to win, to put her in a tough spot over this particular issue. Maybe he's just trying to appeal to China, as we had some friends of the show mention yesterday on the Blaster line. I don't know. All I know is that this was not something that was done on his own accord. It wasn't like Governor Jim Walz did this because this is something that really meant a lot to him, because Democrats never do that. And we have examples throughout the show this morning of Democrats never, ever mean what they say regarding the issues that they pretend to go and care about. There's always some other agenda involved. I only bring all of this up because I feel like I failed as a talk show host. I didn't have the audio from when Governor Jim Walz made this announcement. He was up, near the Boundary Waters in the northern part of the state. He had shot some footage of him golfing, of which he's a horrible golfer. Again, I don't golf apart from miniature. He's probably better than I am at doing miniature golf. That being said, he just looked awkward and weird, much in the same way Governor Jim Walz looks when he has a shotgun and he's going hunting, right? So I decided, you know what? Better late than never. I grabbed some of the audio. It's about 48 seconds. I grabbed some of the audio of the press conference as he was standing inside of, outside, behind a podium in front of one of the, the signs that you see in national parks, the ones that have the decorative font when you go in. So I just wanted to share with you the audio of what he had to say, speaking to the very small crowd in the media, announcing the executive order to save the Boundary Waters.
For decades now, international mining corporations have eyed Buffalo Fluffalo. And for years.
And all the creatures, from the bats to the bugs, covered old Fluff with kisses and hugs.
We've been in a battle over the future of Buffalo Fluffalo. Minnesotans have watched nervously as lawmakers and regulators have wrestled over whether or not to allow this Buffalo Fluffalo to be spoiled. Well, I'm proud today to tell you.
And that's how the story of Fluffalo ends, with a happy old buffalo snuggling his friends.
This morning, I'm using the executive authority that is granted to me as governor to put an end to the Buffalo Fluffalo.
Thanks, everybody. You guys are the best.
I just want to make sure that American Experiment's getting their money's worth. That's all. That's just that's all that was about. I didn't know where to put it on the show this morning. And I was going through my notes, and a lot of important issues to talk about. We'll update you on the call to dismiss the charges, overturn the conviction of Derek Chauvin and the death of George Floyd. We talked with Liz Collin yesterday, and I have a portion of the interview that she did with Derek Chauvin's attorney. We'll share that with you. We have Paul Wickstrom, who will be joining us on the show as well. He'll be coming up at 7:30. We'll talk a little Elon Musk, notification bans. Oh, and Mike Lindell. All in for Mike Lindell. What did I say? I said that if he contests this election, then it's just further proof that Mike Lindell only cares about Mike Lindell. And now we know that's the case, because now he's calling for a statewide recount after losing to Lisa Namath by 45,000 votes. Nobody else is calling for this, by the way. There is nobody else out there. No other loser on the GOP side on primary night, or losers on the Democrat side, is calling shenanigans except for Mike Lindell. So apparently he wants to do everything he can to doom the GOP's chances. And so we'll get into that a little bit later on here on the John Justice Show, again, presented by American Experiment. Thank you for those that have joined us early. Of course, you can watch live at MN Think Tank on X, also Facebook and YouTube at Center of the American Experiment. Also, you can listen to the show via the MixLR app, MIXLR app, where you can always get caught up on the podcast. If you missed that conversation with Liz Collin yesterday, you can get caught up in the last 45 minutes of the show from Wednesday. Also, I want to mention that we have brand new social media accounts specifically for the John Justice Show, presented by American Experiment. So if you head on over to TikTok and just search for John Justice Show, Jon, John Justice Show, you can follow the John Justice Show TikTok account. Also on Instagram, the John Justice Show. And there you can keep up with everything that's been happening on the show. Daily, we'll be uploading clips from the show, so you never miss a moment or a highlight of the John Justice Show. So again, go and find our new show accounts on TikTok and Instagram. And we continue to thank you for your support. So head on over to the social media and make sure you give us a follow there. So let's go ahead and start here. President Donald Trump made an announcement yesterday. A most crushing economic operation, doing that thing with my fingers. a most crushing economic operation against Iran. He's warning of severe consequences for nations, financial institutions, and businesses that support Tehran. The strategy aims to intensify economic pressure through sanctions on Iranian oil, financial channels, foreign entities involved with in trade with Iran, and the move aligns with Trump's goal of preventing Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon. So it's obviously a shift in strategy, and I think the patience is wearing thin when it comes to President Donald Trump and this administration, and so they're taking a different tactic now in an attempt to keep this regime from being able to wage a war against our allies and us, and as I just mentioned, obtain a nuclear weapon. So Trump said the effort would amount to an economic D-Day and warned against countries providing Iran with a financial lifeline. I'm also announcing that any country that allows its financial institutions, businesses, etc., to provide any lifeline to Iran will face tremendous economic consequences. The administration said it was prepared to intensify its economic pressure campaign against Iran. Newsmax reported on Wednesday that citing CNN, that Trump was moving away from seeking a quick resolution to the war and toward a more deliberate strategy of sustained economic pressure on Iran. I'm sure it's going to make the foes of the show really upset who ridiculously want to claim that this is Trump's Vietnam. Individuals who clearly have no understanding of history and how there really is virtually no comparison between what took place in Iran and what Trump is attempting to accomplish regarding the Iranian regime and ultimately giving the Iranian people the ability to rise up and take their country, those that want to be out from under the thumb of this regime. The strategy could include additional sanctions on Iranian oil networks and financial channels. Reuters reported over the weekend that Trump had vowed to hit Iran hard economically after Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said Washington could impose measures against Tehran that have never been seen as soon as the following week. And obviously, this is what's happening now. They also reported the Treasury Department's Office of Foreign Assets Control has imposed sanctions on more than 1,000 people, vessels, and aircraft since Trump began his second term. Listen, there's no doubt that this was supposed to be a much faster operation and that things didn't go the way that I believe the administration and, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth had hoped, in being able to immediately cripple Iran to allow the people of Iran to rise up and take over the country. But that's the difficulty when you are basically waging war against a regime that doesn't play by the rules. This is clearly the backup or the next step to try to go and deal with the situation. An August 11th interview, Trump had said that Iran was already suffering economically and the United States had control over Iranian assets that had been frozen. Reuters reported Monday that Iran entered the war with high inflation and a weakened currency. And again, this is Reuters, so this is we're not talking about a bastion of conservatism outlet here that's reporting this, saying that Iran entered the war with high inflation, a weakening currency, energy shortages, and structural economic problems, and is now dealing with the damaged infrastructure, disrupted trade, and lost production. Yeah, my understanding on this is that we've done so much damage to Iran, there's not much left militarily that we can do against them. So this was the next logical move by the administration to go and deal with this regime and to bring it to a close. And ultimately, I think that's what the goal here is. Iran's annual inflation rate reached 66% in July. Consumer prices were 87.9% higher than earlier in the year, according to Iran's statistical center. And again, reported by Reuters. Trump has repeatedly made preventing Iran from getting a nuclear weapon the central objective of his policy in the actions against Iran. The latest announcement indicates that the economic pressure is likely to remain a major component of the administration's strategy, with a potential for the U.S. action to extend beyond Iran to foreign banks and businesses, governments that help keep Tehran's economy functioning. And I was working off of a piece here from Newsmax. So as I said, clearly Trump wants an end to the standoff and to ease the financial burden ultimately of Americans, us here ahead of November. And this might do the trick to provide the opportunity, as I mentioned, for the people of Iran that want to be out from under this regime to rise up and finally go and personally oust this regime. So clearly the military aspect of it had been successful in diminishing Iran's ability to go and wage war, but the regime remains intact and refuses to come to terms with an agreement with the United States. They simply can't be trusted. And I'm not surprised at Iran's actions. I'm not surprised that Iran had constantly come to the table willing to go and negotiate, saying they agree to the ceasefire, only to undo it. That's what all the previous administrations have done. If there's been any difficulty with what Trump has been trying to do with Iran, it's not because we haven't been doing the right thing against Iran. It's because Iran has been conditioned through decades of appeasement of former leaders here in the United States. Coming up in just a moment, we'll get to a couple of quick points as we keep on President Donald Trump. John Daniel Davidson in the Federalist has a piece this morning that the Never Trumpers are back. This time their target is J.D. Vance. And these aren't your typical Never Trumpers, by the way. We're talking about the likes of Eric Erickson, who certainly falls into that category, but also people like Ben Shapiro, whose opinion, typically I agree with. Here in their attacks against J.D. Vance, I absolutely disagree. So I'll share this with you coming up in just a moment, and some ridiculous audio from the Florida DSA Senate candidate, Angie Nixon, who won against Alex Vindman in the primary earlier this week. I'll get that audio to you here as well. I do want to get to some of your thoughts, though. If you want to leave a comment at any point throughout the show this morning, you can do so on the Blaster line. Drop us a blast at 612-584-4565. Again, that's 612-584-4565.
Hey, good morning, John. I don't know what you got against Mike Lindell. He just wants it to be fair. I'm a delegate in my township, and I have gone to our primaries, and it is absolutely chaos, and it feels like shenanigans every single time. It's insane how votes all of a sudden show up out of nowhere, and it really is an anomaly. It's crazy. I do not blame Mike Lindell at all. In fact, you should invite him on your show and stop being so one-sided towards Lisa Damas. Thanks.
Lisa Damas is the nominee for the GOP now. Mike Lindell's never reached out or responded regarding requests to come on the show, unless they've just simply gotten lost. Feelings don't amount to shenanigans. And to the point that I made earlier, and we'll dive into this in more detail coming up this morning after 7 o'clock. But to the point that I was making earlier, Mike Lindell is the only one that's saying there's any potential here for election fraud. There is zero evidence of this whatsoever. There's no evidence of this. And does he really? And let's just back up as well. And I'm getting ahead of myself, but just because we're here, let's just say for the sake of argument that Mike Lindell were to go and win this lawsuit, or this ballot recount. Do you really have any expectation that he's then going to be able to go and win against Amy Klobuchar on top of the potential negativities that he already had? The Klobuchar campaign wanted to run against Mike Lindell. So let's just take it at that level. So it couldn't have been DFLers doing shenanigans. And I don't for a second believe that anybody on the right, and certainly any other campaign via Qualls or Dameth or anybody else, was involved in any sort of election fraud. There's absolutely no evidence of this whatsoever. Mike Lindell is in it for Mike Lindell. I have nothing. I'm not out against Mike Lindell. He had an opportunity to run. He ran. He lost. But I predicted this, and other people predicted this when he was running, that he wasn't going to concede this election that seemed to be pretty decisive. And again, he's the only one that I've heard who is even questioning the results of the election. And just to be clear, when it comes to Lisa Damas, one-sided, no, I've had Ryan Wilson on the show. I've had Lisa Damas on the show because they're now the nominees for the GOP. It's kind of irrelevant to have anybody else on, including Mike Lindell, just because he now believes that this was not an election that was on the up and up. Provide to me some tangible evidence beyond feelings, beyond looking at vote tallies as they come in and saying, wow, the vote tallies went up and they went up this way for this person. That must mean shenanigans. Provide for me something tangible and we can go and have a further conversation on this. And again, we'll dive into it further coming up after 7 o'clock. And I have audio. There's about 3 minutes of audio from Mike Lindell pleading his case, and I will share that with you here on the John Justice Show coming up. You can email john.justice@americanexperiment.org, john.justice@americanexperiment.org. The same people who attacked Trump in 2016 are now attacking Vice President J.D. Vance. They want the GOP back after Trump is gone. I'll share with you some details of this, and then we'll talk a little Minneapolis news. We're going to revisit a story that I didn't get a chance to talk about in detail regarding the red velvet rope ordinance. Is that what they're calling it? No, yeah. Yes, the velvet rope discrimination at bars and restaurants. In light of the fact that there are a string of deaths that have been taking place in Minneapolis that we'll get into. Crime Watch Minneapolis has been covering this. People are speculating potential of a serial killer, even though law enforcement is saying they don't see any connection in these random deaths. I'll give you those details coming up in just a moment here on the John Justice Show. And again, 612-584-4565 is the phone number. Real quick, I want to talk about NutraWave. Reach out today if you're looking to lose the weight. This is the program you need to go with. I'm on my second round right now, and the weight is falling off daily. I'm now up to losing 28 pounds, and this is my second round on doing this weight loss program. It's absolutely fantastic. I had a friend here, a colleague, a fellow employee here at Center of the American Experiment was like, hey, when you talk about the stuff on the show, do you use these products? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Mini Leaf and this program. This program from NutraWave is amazing. NutriWave. Don't just take my word for it, though. Yeah, 31,000 people over 13 years have lost the weight here in the metro with no shots and no pills. And you can get a free Truth Metabolic Scan and a free red light therapy session for just calling today. It's that simple. You have absolutely nothing to lose and everything to gain apart from putting on more weight. You're going to be able to lose the weight and keep that weight off just like I did. 952-260-1965 is the phone number. 952-260-1965. Mention the keyword strike. And if you're one of the individuals to grab one of the limited spots for this program, again, you can get an almost $300 value from NutraWave for just finding out about the program. No pills, no shots. It's NutraWave. Individual results may vary.
If you would like to support the John Justice Show, become an advertiser. Competitive rates for both personal endorsements and standard ads are available. For more details, email john.justice@americanexperiment.org.
Is the Declaration of Independence worth celebrating? 66% of Minnesotans said yes. The Declaration of Independence worth celebrating. 4% said boycott. That's just 4% crank. In this poll. We can ignore that.
Gosh, this is shocking to me. It really is. When I picture all of the protesters that I see every weekend with their upside down American flags, the No Kings, and the signs cycle every few months because someone's making them for them and giving them their messages. Those people must be included somewhere in here, right? I don't know. That's incredible.
Is America generally a force for good in the world? And again, remember, this came out right before we bombed Iran. These numbers might be different today, but 54% thought America was a force for good in the world, 41% not a force for good, 5% unsure. So not a horrible result there. I think
41% say not a force for good. How do you think that?
Think about it. Minnesota has always been a low crime state. But according to the most recent Bureau of Criminal Apprehension data, we are now above the national average when it comes to Part 1 crimes, a category that includes crimes like murder, assault, rape, and carjackings. Think about it. Minnesota is now a high crime state. Visit highcrimemn.com to learn more. Think About It is brought to you by Center of the American Experiment, Minnesota's think tank.
And now, here's commentary on the latest issues facing Minnesotans from the hosts, policy fellows, and guests of American Experiment. For more content, head on over to the Center of the American Experiment's YouTube page or at americanexperiment.org.
Now, one of Keith Ellison's campaign donors has pleaded guilty to fraud. Now, shocking, I know. For what it's worth, became the last of a 7-member family group to plead guilty in the sprawling Feeding Our Future fraud scandal last week. Ikram Yusuf Mohammed, who once worked as a Feeding Our Future employee, but more excitingly was present at the infamous December 2021 meeting where Keith Ellison, our own Attorney General, met with some fraud-connected individuals. She was in that meeting. So a few days after that meeting took place back in December 2021, her brother, Gandhi, who just pled guilty last week, donated the maximum allowed amount to Keith Ellison's campaign. That was $2,500. But this is so interesting because Gandhi was not only being investigated for food fraud, and we've seen this with several fraudsters. Gandhi Mohammed received at least $36 million in Medicaid reimbursements, as well as the stuff that he was making off the free food fraud case. But he hasn't been charged with fraud in those programs yet. So were those ill-gotten gains?
Support the John Justice Show. Become an advertiser. Competitive rates for both personal endorsements and standard ads are available. For more details, email john.justice@americanexperiment.org.
It's John Justice, and after discovering Mini Leaf's night gummies, it's no longer a challenge getting a restful night's sleep. At minileaf.com, you'll see their fantastic line of products like delicious chocolates, pain creams, and fun gummies. But for me, it's Mini Leaf's night gummies with their all-natural ingredients that have been an absolute game changer. You take one right before bed and wake up feeling rejuvenated. Head on over to MINNELEAF.com. That's minileaf.com and get your sleep back on track.
Think about it. A famous politician once said, "You're entitled to your opinion, but you are not entitled to your own facts." But in a world full of AI and fake news, where can Minnesotans find the facts? Center of the American Experiment is Minnesota's go-to source for fact-based analysis and common sense solutions for taxes, energy, public safety, and our kids' education. Visit AmericanExperiment.org for more information. Think About It is brought to you by Center of the American Experiment, Minnesota's think tank.
It's the John Justice Show, presented by American Experiment. You can watch the show live at MN Think Tank, also on Facebook and YouTube. Listen to the show at AmericanExperiment.org, and also on the MixLR app, where you can get caught up on the podcast as well. Let's go to your comments from the Blaster line this morning. Got a few that rolled in regarding the situation in Iran and the new economic pressure that the Trump administration plans to put on the Iranian regime. We'll hear from a friend of the show, Jim.
Good morning, John. I get to hear you live this morning. This is Jim from Wisconsin. You know, there's a bigger picture with Iran that most of, especially the foes of the show, don't know and understand, but more and more countries are buying oil from us than they are from Iran. And I believe the EAU has now completely cut off their financial ties with Iran, buying oil from us. And so it's a complete economic shift across the world that is hurting Iran and basically hurting China and Russia as well. So Trump is maybe a little bit smarter than a lot of people give him credit for. Anyway, have a great morning.
Thank you so much for the comments, Jim. Greatly appreciated. Let's go and hear from a friend of the show, Tony.
Hey, John. Good morning. Random guy from Greater Minnesota here. Little fun fact about Iran that I heard yesterday. Apparently the way that their government or their regime functions, they only pay their bills like twice a year or something. So their bills are coming due this fall. So sometime between now and November, they're going to not be able to meet their obligations, and shite is going to hit the fan.
Again, there's no doubt that this administration wanted this to be a decisive victory and over quickly when we launched Operation Epic Fury. But rarely does waging war ever go that way. I'm immediately reminded of what all the experts thought and individuals who are far from experts like myself and what I assumed would happen when Russia went into Ukraine all those many years ago now. We figured it would be over by the weekend, and they are still fighting over there. Now, I pray to the good Lord Almighty this won't be the case when it comes to the situation in Iran, But as I mentioned, clearly this administration right now believes that the best opportunity to go and push back against the regime and to get the desired result that they were going for from the beginning, now that we have wounded them greatly in terms of their ability to wage war against us and our allies, is to go after them economically. Thank you for the comments, by the way. Let's get back to one more, and then I want to dive into the new Never Trumpers. Again, 612-584-4565. 612-584-4565.
Hey, John, Kevin Philanavia. I think you were too quick to dispel the previous caller's point about Mike Lindell checking for fraud. There has not been an election in this state in years, at least it's all well known, when they found all the ballots in one guy's trunk, that there hasn't been fraud. There's been fraud in every election. I don't know why you would assume that there isn't.
I'm not assuming there isn't fraud, but I've seen zero evidence of that. You don't have elections and individuals losing and immediately going, we must do a recount and check for fraud. You find evidence. Right, it's a crime, and then you investigate the crime. You don't go the other way. And case in point, as I mentioned before, nobody else is saying this. Adam Schwarzy's not saying this. Royce White, as far as I know, is not saying this. I believe he actually has made it official that he's trying to be drafted into the WNBA, so he's trying to keep his relevancy high. Kendall Qualls isn't saying. Nobody is saying this. Yes, of course, fraud takes place. We talk about it all the time on the show. The question is always whether or not it's enough to go and overturn an election. But in the case of Mike Lindell, there is no evidence of this at all. And election night, he was already saying he wasn't going to concede. The votes hadn't even been tallied yet. We played the audio on the show as they were coming in, and he was shown losing. And he was immediately going, I'm not going to concede even if we lose tonight because I don't think any of it's right. No, he just is in it for himself. And this is only going to hurt Lisa Dameth's chances, which is what makes it so frustrating. But as I predicted, if Mike Lindell went down this path, and that was my qualifier, of contesting this election and now going so far as to call for a massive recount, then clearly he's only in it for himself and not legitimately for the people of Minnesota. Because if he was, he would concede after losing by 45,000 votes and do the right thing and the stand-up thing like Kendall Qualls did and back Lisa Dameth so that we have an even more viable chance. Because I know Mike Lindell does carry weight with voters. I know that people support him, right? A significant number of individuals supported Mike Lindell in this election, and I get it. Okay, but he lost. And if the GOP wants to win, they need to rally around the individuals who are the nominees. Getting to this piece just briefly from the Federalist, the same people who attacked Trump in 2016 are now attacking the vice president. The Never Trumpers are back, and they're recycling the same attacks that they levied against the president a decade ago, aiming them now at Vance in a bid to retake the GOP. So it's a Never Vance campaign, especially on X. Ever since Vance said in an interview last week on Fox News that you don't stop socialism by throwing slogans at people about the free market. You stop socialism by making people's lives better. And that's through economic prosperity, and that's what he's talking about. Vance's crime, however, according to critics like Ben Shapiro, who, generally speaking, whose opinion I respect, doesn't mean that I can't disagree with him, and I'd absolutely disagree with him here. Eric Erickson's a different story altogether, but they were acknowledging the affordability issue is real and proposing that government should do something about it. Shapiro responded with a bizarre post about free markets and a process neutralism, while Erickson wrote a lengthy essay arguing that Vance thinks low prices are bad and America needs a strong man to manage its decline. Plenty of others jumped on the bandwagon to denounce Vance as a right-wing socialist of all things, which is a favorite phrase of Never Vancers. The only way to make sense of these garbled attacks, writes Daniel Davidson, the lines of attack against Vance, is to keep in mind that the overarching motivation here is to return the GOP to its pre-Trump state. If Vance proposes something that sounds populist, or if he suggests that the government might be able to improve the lives of ordinary working Americans, then they call that socialism. If he talks about the common good, something nearly every American political leader, going back to our founders, agreed and espoused, then he's apparently on the woke right. If he suggests that our foreign policy should be refocused on the Western Hemisphere, then that's isolationist. Never mind that all of Trump's top officials like Marco Rubio agree with Vance and all of this stuff, but never get attacked by the neocons for it. Neocons like Shapiro, writes John Daniel Davidson, are not making an actual argument either for free markets or against socialism. They're using these as slop terms to express a dislike for Vance. Let me just jump to the end of this piece, and I want to play a clip for you, right? You know, it talks, you have Sean Davis, who argued last week, he also writes for The Federalist, that we're not going to save the American dream by pretending that we don't have a problem, right? Americans are expressing dismay over prices and affordability. There's no doubt about that. Complaining about the American dream being out of reach. Politically, right? It won't work to simply call Vance a socialist for noticing the problems with the free market system that's leaving more and more Americans behind. Sean Davis says, the American dream was a promise that if you worked hard, you could make it no matter the circumstances you were born into. But that promise has been inaccessible to tens of millions for decades, due in large part to the policies that people like Shapiro push, says Sean Davis. Right. A majority of Americans under the age of 50 now believe the American dream is no longer possible for them. And right now, half of all Americans age 18 to 29 are still living at home with their parents. I got two of them. I'm totally fine with it, by the way. But that is the reality of the situation. I have a 19 and I have a 24-year-old that are still living under our roof while they go and try to carve out their career pathways. And it's a difficult process. You know, Logan's on a fantastic path of becoming a pilot and looking at openings and jobs and has a great job right now. Kyle, on the other hand, isn't sure what he's going to do. And I can tell you that there are not a lot of options out there for 19 to 20-year-olds. That's the highest share, by the way, since the Great Depression. Another 47% in that age group get financial help from someone outside their household to pay for basic living expenses. And what's the problem? Why is it happening? Well, one reason is mass legal immigration, which has brought millions of foreign nationals into our country on HB-1 visas, taking jobs in tech and software development that should have gone to American workers. And then you add on top of that the illegal immigration problem, which, of course, ended up dooming Mike Lindell's campaign, just to get back to that for just a moment. He probably had a better shot at winning if he hadn't proposed his stupid amnesty plan. Under no circumstances are these not good enough. So, no, under these circumstances, the piece wraps up. It's not good enough to repeat the free market good, socialism bad as an argument against Vance. For many decades, the Washington establishment has focused on the health of global corporations and foreign nationals and not the health of American families. Noticing that and insisting that the government do something about it doesn't make you a socialist. It makes you a patriot. And it really depends on exactly what J.D. Vance is talking about when he talks about the American government doing something about it. We're not talking about a redistribution of wealth or other socialism policies. If that was the case, I'll hop on board of J.D. Vance, but that's not what he's proposing right now. He's recognizing the problems that everyday Americans and young Americans are facing and understanding that maybe we need to look at the role of government in those individuals' lives and do some tweaking with my fingers to be able to give the opportunities for people to work hard and achieve the American dream if they want to. And by the way, remember, all the same people who tried to gaslight you about Trump in 2016 are doing the same thing about Vance right now, and I think we all know why. And most frustrating with all of this, right? And this is much like what I want to pen the never Tafoyas. Again, you do you, okay? If you can't vote, if you can't hold your nose and vote for Michelle Tafoya, okay, that's on you. Everybody has their reasons, okay? You have that ability to do so. I may disagree, but there is this never Tafoya mentality, and it's also counterproductive. We have a genuine concern and problem in this country of a rise of communists. And yet you have Republicans out there that want to go and hurt our chances to win future elections and undermine Republicans at a time when we need to get as many Republicans into office as possible if we are going to stem the tide nationwide of these communists winning these primaries across the country. So what do? We get prominent voices on the right that are ridiculously and irrationally attacking the best and brightest of our future when it comes to the GOP. And listen to what we're up against. This is another clip from the DSA, although according to her, she's a newly DSA. Okay. Out of CBS. So Angie Nixon, who won that Senate race in Florida against Vindman, was on CBS. And listen to what she says here. She uses the leftist catchphrase of "let me be clear" in her comments.
Quickly before you go, you're a Democratic socialist running in a statewide race with a large population of people who have fled governments that call themselves socialists. How do you convince those voters when they hear socialists that they may see that as disqualifying?
Yeah, for sure. So I want to be clear. I just recently became a member of the Democratic Socialists. I've also just recently become a member of the Working Families Party. And I let people know that nothing's changed about me. I am someone.
So real quick, so is she not a Democrat socialist now, or is she just like a Democrat socialist light? People shouldn't be concerned. This is my takeaway so far from what she said. People shouldn't be concerned that she is a socialist, having now joined the Democrat Socialist Party, because she just now joined the Democrat Socialist Party. Is that the takeaway here? So because you just joined, that we can't hold you accountable for adopting and believing in the Democrat Socialist platform? Is that supposed to be the idea here? And she used that "let me be clear," which usually means the Democrats are lying over the next thing that they're saying.
Someone who's going to stand up for them, to make sure that I listen to them and continue to fight for them and what their needs are.
No, all that was from Angie Nixon was evidence that she doesn't like the fact that people have been coming after her, because she's been very vocal about her policies that directly align with the DSA, but she also doesn't want to tick off the DSA because she doesn't really stand for anything. Make no mistake, if put into power, she will vote for DSA policies. But that being said, I don't believe this individual even truly understands what it means to be a Democrat socialist. I think she saw it as a pathway, like so many other ignorant, uneducated Democrats running for office, that this was the popular platform to move forward on to win in these elections. And apparently the reason why Vindman lost to Nixon was because he refused to go and campaign. He spent a ton of money thinking that it was going to be enough to buy his way to a primary victory, and it turned out that it wasn't. But here in this clip, what's she doing? Oh, she's simply saying, yeah, I just joined the DSA, so, don't really give me too hard of a time over it. Give me just whatever. And backing up further, the whole reason why I played that, this is the nonsense that we're up against, because people like Angie Nixon will be, gathering votes from the masses on the left. And we as a country cannot afford to have people like that serving in positions of power. 612-584-4565. Again, 612-584-4565. And if you want to email john.justice@americanexperiment.org. All right, let's turn our attention over to Minneapolis. First off, I'm going to set the stage here for what the Minneapolis City Council has currently been involved in. 3 bodies have been found in Minneapolis over the past 3 days. Now, authorities say there's no evidence suggesting that there's a connection between any of these cases. The Hennepin County Medical Examiner will determine the cause of death for all 3 individuals. So the sequence began, and a lot of this reporting, this is from Alpha News, but it was Crime Watch in Minneapolis on X that were the first to go and report all of this. The sequence began on Saturday evening when a 56-year-old Karen Lynn Sognesand was found dead in a wooded area near the Mississippi River. 2 more bodies were discovered at separate Minneapolis locations in the following days. Again, authorities do not believe the three cases are connected, though the investigations remain ongoing. Minneapolis Park Police responded to a report of a body found around 6 p.m. on Saturday, August 15th in that wooded area along the Mississippi. The individual was dead on arrival, according to police, and the person was later identified as Karen Lynn Sognesand. On Sunday, the 16th, the Hennepin County Sheriff's Office, water patrol deputies were dispatched to Bede-Makaska, Lake Calhoun, at approximately 11:40 a.m. following the report of a body along the shoreline. Deputies located decomposed human remains, according to the Sheriff's Office. The dive team searched the surrounding area for additional evidence at the time. The investigation still remains in its early stages. And then on Monday, University of Minnesota police responded to a report of at approximately 1 p.m. and located a deceased individual in the 6th and Main Street southeast area, according to the University of Minnesota Police Department. The deceased person was not found in the water. The department is investigating the incident and said no additional information is currently available. The Hennepin County Medical Examiner will determine the cause of death in all three cases. I hope none of the individuals had any fentanyl in their system. The identities of the individuals Sunday and Monday have not been released as of yet. So let me just say up front, in terms of they don't see any evidence. So it's really, they don't see any evidence so far. And there may not be any connection with these deaths. I do find it just as curious as a lot of people do. But I also don't put a lot of stock in authorities saying that there's no evidence to suggest a connection. That's simply because they haven't found any evidence to suggest a connection. It doesn't necessarily mean that there is not a connection. So we have serious matters at hand, serious issues at hand when it comes to what's going on in Minneapolis. So you have the crime issue, you have these deaths, right? On top of that, you have the budget fight. Minneapolis Parks and Recreation Board and Minneapolis Man-Baby Mayor Mom Jeans Jacob Fry are in a budget dispute over the 27 budget. The mayor proposes a 2.5% increase, while the board seeks a 5.86% increase. We're talking about a $160 million budget for the park board. Of course, they may need to increase that if they're going to have to deal with more bodies being found dead in the parks and to pay for all the law enforcement overtime. The mayor suggests consolidating resources with the city to close the funding gap, but the park board disagrees with its approach. The Minneapolis Parks and Recreation Board of the mayor's office continue to be at odds over the budget. And again, we're looking at the park board wants a higher tax levy to pay for their budget. You already have Minneapolis Man-Baby Mayor Mom Jeans talking about higher property taxes because they can't close their budget loophole for the city of Minneapolis. And what is the Minneapolis City Council concerned about and spending their time on? Velvet rope discrimination in bars. That's right. We talked about this a bit yesterday. The Minneapolis City Council passed an ordinance requiring establishments that serve alcohol to have a dress code and to post it visibly. The ordinance aims to prevent discrimination based on race or gender identity, often referred to as velvet rope discrimination. The ordinance will be reviewed by the full council next week. As I get into the details of this, let me just say up front, I don't care about velvet rope discrimination. I don't care about velvet rope discrimination in times of economic prosperity in large metropolitan areas, and I certainly don't care about velvet rope discrimination right now in the middle of rising crime, multiple deaths with with an investigation ongoing and no idea what's causing these deaths, and on top of it, the fact that the people of Minneapolis are suffering economically. But this is what the Minneapolis City Council is focused on, apart from decriminalizing bathhouses so that Isaac can open Isaac's bathhouse emporium. If a business wants to go and keep an individual from coming into their establishment, they should have a right to go and do that. I'm a big proponent of we hold the right to refuse service. That's right. And guess what? It may be discriminatory, sure, but that's the business's choice. And if that's the case, I would rather have that than going and spending my money at a place where I know they hate me and I'm not going to get a good quality service. It's that simple. Whether you're talking about a nightclub or whether you're talking about a baker or whether you're talking about a restaurant, it doesn't matter to me. The proposed ordinance would require any establishment that sells alcohol and has a dress code to post that dress code where everyone can see it. So you can still go and discriminate. You just need to have a dress code so that everybody knows. But see, that is also problematic because now you're pigeonholing these establishments to stick to their dress code. City council members say the idea is modeled after a similar law passed in Houston, Texas about a year ago. I don't care. This is always a common theme when people go and defend a particular ordinance or law that's unpopular or maybe unpopular in a particular area. They go, well, they've done it over here. They did that with the bathhouses. There are still bathhouses up in Duluth. Yeah, okay. Does it mean that they're good for the city or society? The goal is to prevent businesses from using dress codes as a way to discriminate against people based on race or gender identity. The practice sometimes is called velvet rope discrimination. But they're still discriminating. You're just putting up who you're going to discriminate against on the outside of the business. Jason Chavez, who is, I don't know what, council member of Small Things? The most activist-y of activists on the Minneapolis City Council? That may not be the case. There's a lot of, they're all activists. But he said, doing that thing with my fingers, I can understand why some people may not understand racism exists in this country, but it does. What we're trying to do here is to make sure that people are transparent about the dress code and to help prevent discrimination. But you can still go and discriminate. You're not changing anything. They're just putting up how they are going to discriminate. Common refrain here on the show as it applies to so many of the Democrat policies in Minnesota, make it make sense. Supporters of the ordinance say that posting the dress code gives more people agency and helps eliminate invisible barriers. Without knowing the rules up front, communities bear the brunt of invisible barriers. By requiring posted dress codes, we give people agency. No, you don't. You know who probably is in support of this are the individuals that work the doors that then now don't have to tell people you're not allowed in here. It's pretty easy. You don't dress appropriate for the particular club and they tell you can't come in here like this. You're done. The sign's not going to change any of that apart from taking away the ability of a human to actually interact with another human. The discussion comes after a 2018 incident at the Last Call bar in downtown Minneapolis where apparently a black man was denied entry because a bouncer said his jeans were too baggy and he violated the dress code. Okay. It has nothing to do with the fact that he was black, at least based off of the details here. Mohammed Mo Osman, who was denied entry, said, I felt degraded, I felt humiliated, I felt embarrassed. Well, clearly this individual already has an issue because he should have felt humiliated and embarrassed and degraded for walking around in jeans that were too baggy. I'm going to venture a guess they were probably hanging off his thighs, exposing his boxers. And the look I've never understood. I mean, even when it came to crisscross when I was growing up, I mean, they still wore their jeans all the way up. They just wore them backwards. For those of you that get that reference of a certain age, I know that producer Devin is probably completely lost this morning. You have no idea. That was a trend for a while. There was a very young rap duo. I want to say it was the 90s, probably early 90s. It's called Crisscross. And one of their trademarks was that they wore their jeans backwards, which I don't know if you would realize this if you thought about it, but it makes it very difficult to sit down. It does provide much easier access, though, to your wallet. So I just want to, less chance of getting pickpocketed when you're wearing your jeans backwards and putting your wallet in your back pocket. The city council vice president, Jamal Osman, also noted this is not a solution to solve all discrimination, but it's some way of trying to find a solution. There's no solution at all. They're still discriminating. The committee meeting included public comments for both and against the ordinance. Some argued that the real issue is whether the business owners have the tools to keep social gathering spaces safe in a culture of gun violence. To put this ordinance forward as a protected class of discrimination issue is a red herring for the real issue, which is a culture of gun violence due to the proprietors of small businesses in our communities who have the tools to keep our social gathering spaces safe, said another commentator. To that point, here's some of the comments that were taking place. This one from an individual concerned in the community who I believe was in support of this ordinance.
You know that in recent years, a white man concealed a weapon in his sweat clothes and killed a brown man inside a bar. Hear me now. White people wear sweatpants.
That's a new one. Hear me now. As opposed to what? Ignoring her and then going back and listening later? I don't know. And what point was she trying to make here?
You know that in recent years, a white man concealed a weapon in his sweat clothes and killed a brown man inside a bar. Hear me now. White people wear sweatpants.
Here is also a Minneapolis city council member discussing the racist dress codes.
As a person of color in the city who has seen discrimination and experienced discrimination in different establishments, but has seen it occur right in front of my face, as a young person in this city, to BIPOC community members, especially BIPOC men, this is a real issue, and I think
it's a real issue, guys. Dustin Grady posted this online attached to this clip. I just wanted to share with you what he said because he was spot on. Minneapolis, as I mentioned earlier, so it's kind of dovetailing off of what I said earlier, but Minneapolis is cutting over 100 jobs, raising property taxes by 11%, maybe close to a $31 million budget gap, all while 100 police officers we're 100 police officers short of the mandatory minimum, but the priorities should be gay sex bathhouses and racist dress codes, or you support genocide. Yeah, he pretty much hit the nail on the head. City leaders say the ordinance is meant to ensure that everybody has the opportunity to enjoy Minneapolis nightlife without facing unfair barriers. And again, I'll just point out the fact they're not changing anything. They're still able to go and discriminate. You're just putting those establishments in a tough spot because now they have a dress code. But what if somebody, is still dressed inappropriately but doesn't align specifically with the dress code? The dress code should be this. We determine whether or not you have met our dress code. That should be the dress code. And these aren't real leaders, by the way. They just play one in real life. When it comes to the activists on the Minneapolis City Council. All right, before we turn our attention over to the latest regarding Derek Chauvin and his attorney's attempts to overturn the charges over a lack of convening a grand jury. And there's a couple of different things we'll combine here. Elon Musk had actually posted about Derek Chauvin yesterday, which, oddly enough, there was a lot of commentators that were firing back at Elon Musk over these comments, and it was really quite comical. I'll get into this in just a moment. But we have further Elon Musk news to share as well, because the Minnesota nudification ban was argued in court yesterday amid challenges by Elon Musk's AI agency. So we're going to kind of combine these two different stories regarding Derek Chauvin, Elon Musk, and the nudification ban. We'll get to that coming up in just a moment, and we'll also get to some of your thoughts from the Blaster line, again, at 612-584-4565. Before we do that, though, I want to remind you that if you have not gone over to MiniLeaf.com, you need to head over to MINNELEAF.com. Quick shout out to Eric and his wife that run MiniLeaf. They keep it local. The packaging is done here local, right in Brooklyn Park. Also, the MiniLeaf tonics, which are absolutely delicious. Great alternatives to your alcoholic beverages. Those are brewed right here in Eden Prairie. So I got a refill on my night gummies yesterday. I got a little gift package from Eric from MiniLeaf. I was very, very, very excited. Head on over to their website, MINNELEAF.com, and check out their wide array of fantastic products. And again, including the night gummies from MiniLeaf. to get me a good night's sleep and have me prepared, waking up refreshed Monday through Friday, 6 until 9 a.m. to come and talk to you. If you have reservations about these products, they're made with all natural ingredients. There's no bitter aftertaste. And there's a great frequently asked questions section on the website, on top of the fact that all the products at Mini Leaf are third-party tested. They want you to live a better life through their products, and I can absolutely say that my life has gotten better because of the night gummies from Mini Leaf. So taste happy at MINNELEAF.com. That's MiniLeaf.com.
If you would like to support the John Justice Show, become an advertiser. For more details, email john.justice@americanexperiment.org.
It's John Justice, and you've probably gone through the yo-yo dieting. That was the case for me, but not anymore. You lose a few pounds, it all comes back, and more. You lose a few pounds, and it all comes back, and even more. If that's been your life, NutraWave was built for you. It certainly was for me. I've lost over 25 pounds on this amazing program. NutraWave turns on the fat burning, reignites your energy, and it's all natural. There's no pills, there's no shots, there's no excuses. It actually helps you change your relationship with food just through the process of the program. 31,000 people across the metro have tried everything else, and NutraWave is where they got their life back. And NutraWave is accepting a limited number of new people. So call and mention the word strike, and you get a $272 value Truth Metabolic Scan and a red light therapy session. I've done it. It's incredibly effective. Nothing to lose and everything to gain, but you're going to lose the weight and you're not going to put it back on. Individual results may vary. So call today at 952-260-1965. That's 952-260-1965. Remember, no pills, no shots, just results. NutraWave, there's nothing else like it. Results may vary. NutraWave is not a medical treatment. Consult your physician before starting any weight loss program.
And now, here's commentary on the latest issues facing Minnesotans from the hosts, policy fellows, and guests of American Experiment. For more content, head on over to the center of the American Experiment's YouTube page or at americanexperiment.org.
The state government of Minnesota gave $500,000 of taxpayers' money to a non-profit called Gender Justice. And it was Gender Justice who brought the lawsuit against the state government, which won, which allowed for men to be put in women's prisons. And the state government, you paid for that.
Yeah.
You know, you, hard-pressed, hard-working, law-abiding Minnesota taxpayer, you paid for this. You paid for it both ends. You paid for it when they paid Gender Justice to bring the lawsuit, and you paid for it at the other end when this guy living in a woman's prison gets a sex change operation.
If you would like to support the John Justice Show, become an advertiser. For more details, email john.justice@americanexperiment.org.
So I wrote last week about the example of a sex change operation that the state of Minnesota has apparently paid for a convicted murderer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, now I looked up how much do these things cost, and I got an estimate of between $50,000 and $80,000. So if you take the low end estimate, $50,000, let's say this was a cheap operation, and then you look at how much the kind of median Minnesota taxpayer pays in taxes, you're looking at about 10 Minnesotans' annual state income tax payments have gone to pay for this guy to get a sex change operation.
Think about it. Now that school's out for the summer, how are Minnesota students doing? Not very well. Minnesota ACT scores fell again last year and are the lowest they've been in 10 years. In fact, fewer than half of Minnesota students can either read or do math at grade level. Think about it. We used to brag about our schools. Now we're losing to states like Mississippi. Visit americanexperiment.org for more information. Think About It is brought to you by Center of the American Experiment, Minnesota's think tank.
It's the John Justice Show, presented by American Experiment. Head on over to americanexperiment.org. There you can check out the Wrong Track Minnesota. Definitely go and look at the list of the different issues that you here in Minnesota are most concerned about, and the ones that highlight how we're on the wrong track. why these upcoming elections are so important. They're all backed up with data as well at AmericanExperiment.org. And there's a whole slate of fantastic new articles from the policy fellows here. Also, remember, we have brand new social media accounts dedicated specifically to the show. If you head on over to TikTok, search for JON, John Justice Show on TikTok. You can follow the show there. Also on Instagram, The John Justice Show. We have brand new, again, social media accounts on Instagram and TikTok for the show. So you never miss any of the clips or the highlights from the show. They'll be posted there daily, and we're hoping to get a lot of followers to those new accounts. So head on over to TikTok, John Justice Show, and Instagram, The John Justice Show. Top of hour 2 here on the John Justice Show, presented by American Experiment. Glad you're with us. Remember, you can watch live on X at MN Think Tank, Facebook, and YouTube, Center of the American Experiment. To listen at AmericanExperiment.org. And also, if you haven't done so already, download the MixLR app, where you can listen to the podcast of the show right there in the app when the show is over. And, of course, listen to it live. Those podcasts are available across all media platforms. The replays of the videos are also on those platforms I just mentioned. And we post the show to Rumble via video after the show is over as well. So looking forward to a Freedom Friday. We've got a packed house tomorrow. Grace and Catherine, along with AK and Max, flying through the month of August, by the way. It's been chilly. Slightly chilly in the morning. Makes me very happy. I can wear my jackets again. Although I need new jackets because a lot of my old jackets were from the former employer. Oh, hey, maybe you're tall. If you need some gear for the place where you still work, I got a whole basket full.
I'll probably take some.
The staff over there is going to be wondering, where did Devin get all the gear from? I was going to go put it at Goodwill, but yeah, maybe I'll bring it in. You can take your pick. It's some nice stuff. It absolutely is some nice stuff. So, all right, this hour we're going to dive into. Mike Lindell says he will fund statewide recount of Minnesota GOP governor primary. Rob Dorr from the Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus and law expert has a post regarding this. I have my own thoughts as well. We'll talk about this coming up in just a few minutes on the show. Before we do, though, I want to revisit yesterday. And we had Liz Collin from Alpha News on in the last 45 minutes of the show. If you missed it, be sure to check out the podcast or the rewatch of the video. Fantastic interview with Liz talking about how Derek Chauvin's attorney is looking to get the charges against his client, Derek Chauvin, dismissed over what they believe was an unconstitutional not convening of a grand jury in the way that they went about bringing the charges against Derek Chauvin, including having the case handed over to Keith Ellison, and according to the attorney's claims, not convening a grand jury, which you're not allowed to do. I want to play for you a clip here in just a moment, a few minutes of Liz Collin talking with Derek Chauvin's attorney. Before I do, though, and then we're going to talk more Elon Musk with this notification ban being argued in court yesterday. I have further audio to share with you as well. But Elon posted in the wake of this bombshell claim to have the charges overturned. He says Derek Chauvin was unjustly convicted of murder, therefore he should be freed. The facts show that he was not the cause of death, nor did he at any time intend for death to occur. However, whatever else he may be, he's not a murderer. That's the truth. What was really funny about Elon Musk's comments wasn't Elon Musk commenting on it. He's commented on this before with a similar view. It was the number of prominent individuals locally that were pushing back on it, and specifically what their argument was. I saw multiple prominent commentators make a post to this saying, were you in the courtroom for the entire duration to come to this conclusion? I'm sorry, were you? I understand the argument they're trying to put forward is that there was a jury that was in the room that did hear all the evidence and came to the conclusion that they came. But for anybody who was not in the courtroom, including the individuals pushing back on Elon Musk, to go and say that they know definitively either way is just as relevant as them saying that Elon Musk doesn't know definitively either way. I just don't understand people and sometimes the logic of what they go down. Your argument is not nearly as sound. They think they're owning it. They think, oh, I got him. Were you in the courtroom? Yeah, well, were you? You want to make an argument that a jury of his peers, doing nothing with my fingers, convicted him? That's fine. But you personally, unless you were in that courtroom, you don't know either. You may have sat in that courtroom and have a different opinion than the jurors that were on the jury for Derek Chauvin. Not the win that you think it was. In the meantime, as we mentioned, attorneys for Derek Chauvin say that Tim Walz and Ellison violated state law. They did not submit the case to a grand jury, which denied Chauvin his due process. Chauvin didn't kill George Floyd. The autopsy said fentanyl did, and he's still sitting in prison. Trump can pardon the federal charges on Chauvin, and that would eliminate 21 years of his sentence, and Chauvin's constitutional rights were violated. This has to be overturned. Enough is enough, according to the post that I pulled here, where I found this particular clip. And there's been arguments to be made, and I actually talked about this, not specifically, but this is what I was alluding to when I talked to Liz Collin about this yesterday, because there are arguments to be made that it would not be beneficial to Derek Chauvin if President Donald Trump were to have moved forward with that pardon, that actually would have been to Chauvin's detriment. What this attorney now is attempting to accomplish is a much better effort at getting these charges overturned than what it might potentially do if Trump were to go and pardon the federal charges over this. In the meantime, here's a bit of that conversation between Chauvin's attorney and Liz Collin from Alpha News earlier this week.
Today, you filed another petition for your client, Derek Chauvin, and that petition states that Governor Walz, Attorney General Keith Ellison, and the Hennepin County Attorney's Office violated state law in filing charges against your client. I know there are a lot of details in all of this, 31 pages in all, but how big of a deal is this, Greg?
This is fundamental. This is something that is just an institution that stretches back a very, very long ways. And when I say long ways, I mean Vikings, which is fitting for this state. The grand jury is essential. It's fundamental. And this case was never submitted to a grand jury. And I want to be clear about something else. This is a violation of not only state laws. This is a state constitutional violation. This is a federal constitutional violation. And what was done here is shocking. It's inexcusable.
So this all happens in a very short amount of time after May 25th, 2020. So they failed to convene a grand jury in this case, violating your client's right to due process. I think a lot of people are going to wonder, though, how something as big as this went unnoticed for such a long time.
Well, obviously, I don't have to tell you that the circumstances were strange. There was an assignment of authority by Governor Walz, which itself was unlawful. But that's unusual in any case. So I think there were a lot of things going on. I think it was very easy to lose the forest for the trees because in a very short period of time, there were very fundamental and basic violations of due process. And those aren't necessarily things that defense attorneys normally look for in preparing a case like this. You take for granted that the charges are going to be brought lawfully and that the process will be adhered to. And this didn't happen. It's not something that you'd normally even look for in a case like this, because you don't see this conduct by state actors.
So you have to essentially go back to the very beginning of this case, follow it all the way from the beginning. What did you find? What's going through your mind, I guess, when you discover this flaw?
The only thing you have when you're a defense attorney, the only thing you have to build your case around, your defense around, is the criminal charges. So I want to emphasize how fundamental this is. If the charges themselves are illegal, as they were in this case, everything that follows from those charges is also illegal, including the trial, which was a fraud. So what went through my mind when I saw this is I was stunned. Obviously, we filed a petition last November and called out a lot of due process problems with the trial at that time. The district court didn't see fit to grant a hearing in that, and it's currently at the Court of Appeals. But this is so basic. It's easy to miss how basic this is, and unfortunately, everyone did. Effectively, what happened is the charges that were filed by the Hennepin County Attorney's Office which were also unlawful because there was no grand jury convened and probable cause was found by a Hennepin County District Court judge. And that wasn't enough. Those charges weren't severe enough for the people who burned down Minneapolis. So the governor stepped in and assigned responsibility to Attorney General Ellison. Now, there is a statute that gives him authority to do that, but he didn't follow the statute either. So what the statute requires, it may be actually a procedural rule. What the rule requires is that the conveyance of authority be done in writing. So that didn't happen. But the bigger point is that the conveyance of authority from the Hennepin County attorney at the direction of Governor Walz only applies in cases where an indictment by a grand jury is required. Mr. Chauvin was a public officer. He was a licensed peace officer in Minnesota, and he was performing his duties as a police officer at all times relevant. So without that indictment, Governor Walz lacks the authority to assign this case to the Attorney General's office. Now, of course, the Attorney General had no problem picking up that authority and abusing it, but that initial fundamental transfer of power was unlawful. So really, anything that flows from that is illegitimate and it's illegal. The complaint has to be dismissed in its entirety.
And again, that was a sum of the conversation that you can hear in its entirety over at alphanews.org. Liz Collin from Alpha News talking with the attorney of Derek Chauvin. And we're going to watch this with great interest. There still has been virtually no coverage in local media regarding this, and I don't think there's been any response from Attorney General Thief Ellison or Governor Dim Walz over this issue. But if there is validity to these claims, this could be massive. And the ramifications, you and I both know, go far beyond that for specifically Derek Chauvin. You know what the reaction is going to be here in Minnesota if this moves forward with legitimacy. It's not going to be pretty. And there's a part of me that says, too, that this, may not bode well when it comes to the election. It doesn't mean we don't move forward. It doesn't mean that they shouldn't move forward. They should. A man's life hangs in the balance right now, assuming that what the attorney has discovered here, it turns out to be true. But also just be prepared for the fact that this may have some negative ramifications and give ammunition to the left to push forward on so many of their ridiculous claims, as they have solidified among the minds of the broken and the brainwashed on the left regarding the death of George Floyd. We'll keep with the theme of Elon Musk here in just a moment. Attorneys argued in court yesterday as an AI company founded by Musk is challenging the new Minnesota law that bans AI-generated nude images. This is completely unnecessary, by the way, and I will share with you why it's completely unnecessary coming up on the show in just a few minutes. Also, at the bottom of the hour, we'll be talking with Paul Wickstrom. Running for office. He has an event coming up, a fundraising event, as he runs. We've had him on the air before a year ago for the Congressional District 4 special election. So he has an event coming up at the Anoka Airport. We'll give you details on. And he has some thoughts about challenger Betty McCollum and a recent investigative story wherein the Star Tribune actually did a decent job exposing Betty McCollum's alliances with the Defense Department and spending. So we got a lot of ground to cover still on the show. If you want to get your comments in, you can drop us a blast at 612-584-4565. Again, that's 612-584-4565. Or, as many of you have already, you can drop me an email, john.justice@americanexperiment.org. It is the John Justice Show, presented by American Experiment. Don't go anywhere.
If you would like to support the John Justice Show, become an advertiser. Competitive rates for both personal endorsements and standard ads are available. For more details, email john.justice@americanexperiment.org.
Is the Declaration of Independence worth celebrating? 66% of Minnesotans said yes. The Declaration of Independence worth celebrating. 4% said boycott. That's just 4% crank. In this poll. We can ignore that.
Gosh, this is shocking
numbers.
to me. It really is. When I picture all of the protesters that I see every weekend with their upside down American flags, the No Kings, and the signs cycle every few months because someone's making them for them and giving them their messages. Those people must be included somewhere in here, right? I don't know. That's incredible.
Is America generally a force for good in the world? And again, remember, this came out right before we bombed Iran. These numbers might be different today, but 54% thought America was a force for good in the world, 41% not a force for good, 5% unsure. So not a horrible result there. I think
41% say not a force for good. How do you think that?
Think about it. Minnesota has always been a low crime state. But according to the most recent Bureau of Criminal Apprehension data, we are now above the national average when it comes to Part 1 crimes, a category that includes crimes like murder, assault, rape, and carjackings. Think about it. Minnesota is now a high crime state. Visit highcrimemn.com to learn more. Think About It is brought to you by Center of the American Experiment, Minnesota's think tank.
And now, here's commentary on the latest issues facing Minnesotans from the hosts, policy fellows, and guests of American Experiment. For more content, head on over to the Center of the American Experiment's YouTube page or at americanexperiment.org.
Now, one of Keith Ellison's campaign donors has pleaded guilty to fraud. Now, shocking, I know. For what it's worth, became the last of a 7-member family group to plead guilty in the sprawling Feeding Our Future fraud scandal last week. Ikram Yusuf Mohammed, who once worked as a Feeding Our Future employee, but more excitingly was present at the infamous December 2021 meeting where Keith Ellison, our own Attorney General, met with some fraud-connected individuals. She was in that meeting. So a few days after that meeting took place back in December 2021, her brother, Gandhi, who just pled guilty last week, donated the maximum allowed amount to Keith Ellison's campaign. That was $2,500. But this is so interesting because Gandhi was not only being investigated for food fraud, and we've seen this with several fraudsters. Gandhi Mohammed received at least $36 million in Medicaid reimbursements, as well as the stuff that he was making off the free food fraud case. But he hasn't been charged with fraud in those programs yet. So were those ill-gotten gains?
Support the John Justice Show. Become an advertiser. Competitive rates for both personal endorsements and standard ads are available. For more details, email john.justice@americanexperiment.org.
It's John Justice, and after discovering Mini Leaf's night gummies, it's no longer a challenge getting a restful night's sleep. At minileaf.com, you'll see their fantastic line of products like delicious chocolates, pain creams, and fun gummies. But for me, it's Mini Leaf's night gummies with their all-natural ingredients that have been an absolute game changer. You take one right before bed and wake up feeling rejuvenated. Head on over to MINNELEAF.com. That's minileaf.com and get your sleep back on track.
Think about it. A famous politician once said, "You're entitled to your opinion, but you are not entitled to your own facts." But in a world full of AI and fake news, where can Minnesotans find the facts? Center of the American Experiment is Minnesota's go-to source for fact-based analysis and common sense solutions for taxes, energy, public safety, and our kids' education. Visit americanexperiment.org for more information. Think About It is brought to you by Center of the American Experiment, Minnesota's think tank.
Yeah, it's pretty funny on how these lefties are all about due process when it applies to illegal aliens who are murderers, pedophiles, rapists, and yet you've got a guy who the evidence literally show was falsely imprisoned and there was never due process followed. Well, he still has to stay in jail because, stay employed.
Thank you for the comment on the Blaster line, 612-584-4565, 612-584-4565. If you want to leave a comment this morning, we'll be talking with Paul Wickstrom, running for Congress, coming up in just a minute. He has a fundraiser happening this weekend that he'd like you to attend, so we'll get details on that. Also, we will be getting into, coming up on the show, Mike Lindell says that he will personally fund a statewide recount of the Minnesota GOP gubernatorial primary. Lost in that election, says privately funding the statewide hand recount and the audit of ballots is citing alleged irregularities in election night reporting data. As Rob Dorr is a bit of a preview posted online from the Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus and law expert. There's no evidence a single vote was counted wrong. No evidence that paper ballots differ from reported ballots. No proof the voting systems were uncertified. Yeah. He confuses unofficial election night reporting with legal canvases. Yeah. So we'll get into this coming up on the show, and I have audio to share from Mike Lindell talking about his desire to have a recount. Let's go here, though. We were talking about Elon Musk a moment ago, his comments over the death of George Floyd, Derek Chauvin, and the bombshell claims by Derek Chauvin's current attorney. Elon was also in the news today. Fox 9 reported, attorneys argued in court yesterday that the AI company founded by Elon Musk is challenging the new Minnesota law that bans AI-generated nude images. You listen, this all sounds good on its face, but guess what? It's already XAI's policy to prohibit users from generating non-consensual nude or sexualized images. The private sector is doing what the private sector needs to do. There's no reason for the government to go and get involved. No, there's another reason why Attorney General Keith Ellison is pushing forward on that. I'll give you details here in just a moment. The law does ban commercial products, as I just mentioned, like websites or apps from manipulating someone's likeness to create a fake nude image. XAI, Elon Musk's artificial intelligence company, is suing Minnesota to try to stop the law from being introduced. The federal judge denied XAI's request for a temporary restraining order, but now the company is asking for a preliminary injunction. Let's go here just briefly from Fox 9. They're doing their own social media videos regarding the various stories because they know this is how people are consuming their news now.
Hey, y'all, it is Corin, and I'm following a story today that I've been covering for years now, thanks to a few brave women who came forward to talk about being victims of nudification. There was a man they knew who took their innocent photos, put it through AI, and created pornography. I showed you how that can work back in April. Since then, the legislature nearly unanimously passed a ban that targets the creation. Companies would have to pay up to $500,000 in fines for allowing it to happen. And then Elon Musk sued to stop enforcement. His lawyers argue nudification is bad, but the law is too broad and violates the right to free speech. And it should include First Amendment exclusions for things like parody, not just unrealistic content. Attorney General Keith Ellison says the state is enforcing the law since it took effect on August 1st, so I tested it out. Elon's Grok wouldn't let me do it, couldn't get past moderation, but some easy-to-find sites still allow it.
Well, yeah, and those easy-to-find sites aren't the ones that they are targeting. They're specifically, and I know they're included within the nudification ban, but let's be clear here. Oh, I did let's be clear, didn't I? Gosh, darn it. All right. If you want to stop listening, I completely understand. That's my fault. It's bound to happen when you hear the leftists saying it all the time. Now, see, when I say let's be clear, I actually mean it, right? You can decide whether or not I'm telling the truth. I'm not going to. That's on you. But unfortunately now, the left has ruined so many phrases, and you can't say let's be clear anymore. Gosh darn it. However, so in my view, this nudification ban was specifically targeted against Elon Musk. This is the biggest person and entity that's affected by this. Minnesota's Attorney General Keith Ellison defended the law, saying, "I'm proud to fiercely defend this bipartisan law and its intent to protect Minnesotans from the irreparable harms that nudification tools and technology pose." Okay. Is he going after Photoshop too? Is that the case? Because, this is not the only way where you can go and create these types of horrible images of individuals. It's not. It's easier to do it with these just because of how quickly, AI works, but there's plenty of other ways where people have been doing this for years. For crying out loud, I've had people that have done ridiculous Photoshop. The foes of the show on X have done this. I see anybody moving forward to go and ban that stuff, and I don't particularly care. It's on you. Anybody else can see how ridiculous that is. Ellison argued in his brief opposing XAI's motion that anyone who can upload a photo can victimize someone. He pointed out there that more than half of victims do not know who created or altered the image, which is why the law targets the technology itself and holds platforms responsible for enabling deepfakes. Ellison also said that Musk's company waited too long to file its legal challenge, whatever. And as I mentioned, XAI already prohibits this type of manipulation of using their platform. No, this is an attack on Elon Musk. because X is no longer a platform that is viable for spreading the propaganda on the left. The left no longer carries a majority amount of influence on the platform, and Elon Musk committed the cardinal sin, as he used to be a darling of the left, for partnering with President Donald Trump in the early part of Trump's second term. That's what this is all about. And just to speak to the further ridiculousness of this, and the private sector is handling it, as I said, but this is just about the nudification part of it. You can still go and create all kinds of different AI-related images that aren't nude but still mock individuals. Yeah, is it bad and does it cause harm, or could it potentially cause harm to an individual or a woman or a man who has somebody go and nudify them with this? Of course it does. But you can make all kinds of parodies. You can you could take Peggy Flanagan and impose her face, on a goat. And she can say that was offensive. That's still allowed on the platform. That's why this is so ridiculous and completely unnecessary. 612-584-4565. 612-584-4565. All right, let's go back and hear from you leaving comments on the Blaster line this morning. You can also email john.justice@americanexperiment.org. And I have some further audio that's kind of related to this that I want to share with you coming up. We also have our guest, Paul Wickstrom, joining us in about 4 minutes from here. Let's go and hear from friend of the show, Ron, this morning from the Blaster line.
This whole nudification thing, I guess I sort of understand why people are upset about it, but really, I don't. If I was the subject of a nudification thing, I imagine that whatever they came up with would look 10 times better than real life. I'm not sure my wife even wants to see me naked anymore. So, to me, it'd be of no consequence. Maybe even flattery.
Okay. So, Ron's fine with it because Ron's not worried about him being nudified. Nope. Okay. I think he was making a joke on that one. Just want to be clear about that. All right, we did have a couple of comments relating to George Floyd. And let's go back to the Blaster line.
I don't think we will ever know for sure what caused the death of George Floyd. Would he have died if Officer Chauvin had not restrained him because of the massive overdose of fentanyl? Would he have survived if Officer Chauvin had not restrained him on the ground? We will never know because it is
Well, and this goes back to, kind of the question of, whether or not the attorneys for Derek Chauvin really, did the right thing in terms of his defense. I don't think that he had, and I know others believe that as well. I think there was an admirable job done by the attorneys that were representing Derek Chauvin, but I think under different attorneys, there might have been a better or a different outcome in that case. Let's go back to the Blaster line.
Hey, Derek Chauvin is 100% innocent. Biggest injustice I've ever seen in my life. He was following protocol in the police training, and one officer lied on the stand about it.
And I know that's the view that a lot of individuals have. And as I mentioned, I'm certainly, very curious to see where this challenge that Derek Chauvin's current attorney has put forward, where it ends up landing. Thank you so much for the comments this morning on the Blaster line, 612-584-4565. Before we talk with our guest, let me go here briefly. And I know this is kind of a wonky way to get here, but I found a clip yesterday of DFL Representative Zach Stevenson. Okay. Listen, they're all a bunch of hacks. Zach's really up there, though. This clip cracked me up. So it's a clip of Zach Stevenson on a podcast, and with the podcast host, DFL Representative Zach Stevenson gets into this conversation regarding affordability. Okay. But he ends up speaking out of both sides of his mouth. in this comment that I'm about to play for you. What's interesting about this is that Zach Stevenson, when I was combing through his social media, because I needed to get an example of what I'm about to share with you, and I found it, by the way, but I also found that Zach Stevenson had posted about this AI notification bill and AI in general, saying the AI industry is the only industry in America that has less regulation than sandwich shops. The OpenAI CEO actually said it out loud when talking about the future, that there will be no privacy. Is that the world that you want to live in? I think Zach Stevenson should be more concerned about why there's so much regulation on sandwich shops, which is typically because of Democrat policy, than he should be over the current lack of regulation regarding artificial intelligence. Case in point, what I was just sharing with you regarding the ridiculousness of the notification bill. That being said, it is stereotypical on the left to go and vilify and demonize the one percenters, the millionaires and billionaires. You hear it all the time. As a matter of fact, Zach Stevenson even posted, "It was great to join the Minnesota Farmers Union." This was going back to a post that he did several months ago. To join the Farmers Union at their annual convention. The success of Minnesota farmers is critical to the success of our entire state. We will continue to put the workers and families and family farmers ahead of the ultra wealthy and big corporations. And so I just needed to get evidence of Zach Stevenson vilifying, again, big corporations and what he determines is the ultra wealthy. Now, with that, let me play for you this clip I found. Again, Zach Stevenson talking on a podcast about affordability. And what was funny about this, just one more quick point, is that the Minnesota Star Tribune actually has a hit piece this morning. These 14 Minnesota CEOs took home more than $10 million, and one making more than $200 million. The Minnesota Star Tribune ranked the 50 highest paid executives for Minnesota public companies, including the lifetime CEO who made the most by far. The only reason they did this was to provide ammunition for what I was just talking about. The left's desire to continue to perpetuate this false narrative that millionaires and billionaires are a blight on this country, and not those individuals that are providing the most jobs to the most employees and health care and fantastic wages, but that these are individuals who don't pay their fair share, that they want to vilify to expand their own policies. So listen to this clip, and then I'll tell you why Zach Stevenson here is talking out of both sides of his mouth.
Affordability is one of the words of the moment, especially in politics. What are a couple of things the legislature could do to realistically make life more affordable for people?
Well, I would say a few things. One, on food prices, we should ban the practice of surveillance pricing, where large companies using AI and video surveillance are able to adjust prices in real terms and drive them up if they think people can pay more. That's some Orwellian stuff that we should absolutely ban. We should take action on housing to build more housing in Minnesota so that we can get the cost of homes down for Minnesotans. But the big one is healthcare, where we need to take action to hold those large insurance companies and pharmaceutical companies accountable. They're making record profits as people's deductibles, their co-pays, and the cost of their prescription drugs are skyrocketing.
His first comment regarding the surveillance pricing and artificial intelligence and algorithms runs completely counter to his last comment regarding the evil healthcare companies making all these big profits. Wedged in the middle, and I don't want to focus on that, but I'll make a quick comment. Wedged in the middle is this fantasy land that Democrats live in, wherein they believe that if you just build more houses, that you're going to drive the cost of houses down. It's just simply not the case. It's a catch-all phrase. It's an easy one for them to go and tout, to try to go and play on the concerns of affordability here in the country that are real, but it doesn't really provide any solutions beyond a talking point. What's funny, and not even funny, what's ridiculous about what Zach Stevenson said is that if he actually believes in the policies that he says he believes in, he would be for surveillance pricing. This is not an argument on the part of John Justice and the John Justice Show presented by American Experiment advocating for surveillance pricing. All I'm pointing out is the hypocrisy of what Zach Stevenson just mentioned here. Here's the reason why. What does surveillance pricing do? Surveillance pricing via AI and algorithms, when you're going through a store, identifies you, looks at your finances, and then bases the price of what it is you're about to purchase based off your finances. Given the mentality of Zach Stephenson, he should absolutely be in support of this. They're not raising the prices on people that aren't making a lot of money. They're raising the prices on people that actually have a lot of money or have more money than other individuals. This is what the Democrats are always touting. They should be out there promoting surveillance pricing. They're the ones that want to stick it to the rich over and over and over again without ever giving any sort of qualifiers or identifiers or specificity over what it means to go and tax the hell out of billionaires. And yet here he is complaining about corporations making all this money, but at the same time talking about affordability and we need to ban surveillance pricing, when in reality, surveillance pricing via AI fits exactly into the Democrat playbook of vilifying individuals that make more than other individuals. Do they ever mean what they say? Like, ever? The Blaster line is 612-584-4565, 612-584-4565. And with that, I am very pleased to welcome into the show, running for Congress, Paul Wickstrom. Good morning, Paul. Thank you so much for coming on the John Justice Show presented by American Experiment. It's good to see you, and thank you so much for joining us this morning. Oh, Paul, I can't hear you. Are you muted on your end? Got you now? Oh. No, I think we got it. We're okay. We're okay on our end over there. I think it's on Paul's end. I'll give Paul a few more seconds here. While he tries to get this loaded up, let me just mention really quick that there is a fundraising event happening for Paul Wickstrom coming up on the 21st. It's happening this weekend. You can come on by and gather together with a bunch of supporters in order to support Paul Wickstrom's efforts to go and run for Congress. We certainly have had him on the show before. Paul, we got you now? No, unfortunately, yeah. No, unfortunately, we don't, Paul. I apologize for that. I don't know why we're having technical difficulties this morning. I'll give you one more second here to figure it out before we're going to have to, unfortunately, move on with the show. No, unfortunately, we don't have Paul. Paul, we'll check in again. Thank you for trying to join us this morning. I'm sorry for the technical problems on your end here on the show. I was looking forward to talking with you this morning. I do want to encourage you to go and check out not only the fundraising event taking place coming up at the Anoka Airport on Friday. I believe it starts around 6 p.m. if you want to go and support Paul's run for Congress. Also, there's a couple of different pieces. Betty McCollum became Minnesota's pipeline to the Pentagon. The defense industry took notice with help from a former staffer turned lobbyist. The powerful Democrat and occasional critic of the Pentagon spending is helping to fund Minnesota's defense industry. Defense donors are opening up their wallets because of that. And this was a pretty good investigative story done by the Star Tribune regarding Betty McCollum. There was a follow-up to this piece, by the way. Peace groups call McCollum's defense work a betrayal, while Paul Wickstrom, who is running against McCollum in Minnesota's 4th Congressional District, said McCollum criticizes Pentagon waste while creating it and alleged that she acted unethically by supporting funding for a campaign donor and collaborating with a former staffer turned defense lobbyist. Wickstrom went on to say, this is exactly the swamp that Minnesotans are sick of. So again, if you want to support his campaign, head on over to the Anoka Airport, and that's tomorrow starting at 6 o'clock, where there's a fundraising event taking place for Paul. And it's just, again, unfortunate that we couldn't get him on the show this morning. All right, coming up, Mike Lindell says that he will fund statewide recount of GOP governor primary. We did have a couple of comments that rolled in regarding this before we dive into the details and play audio from Mike Lindell laying out his case over why he believes there should be a recount. First, let's go to the Blaster line.
Good morning, John. It really doesn't matter what I feel and think of Mike Lindell. He may be a very nice guy. The problem is there's no evidence of the election fraud. Overall, he's not a likable person politically. He doesn't only have baggage. He has steamer trunks full of skeletons in his closet. And that's why he doesn't have a chance to win.
Thank you for the comment, Rich. Let's go and hear from the other side of individuals who support Mike Lindell's efforts.
Election fraud is real. We have a candidate who wants to challenge our election system and expose the fraud. And you want him to concede. That's the dictionary definition of cognitive dissidence.
No, as a matter of fact, it's not. And I'm curious how you believe that elections should be conducted. Like, is it your opinion that every candidate that loses an election should just immediately go and demand a recount in the wake of not having any evidence? Listen, you can say that election fraud is real. Election fraud is real. We've talked about election fraud here on the show many times, news stories and otherwise, the potential of election fraud, how vulnerable our elections are. But that being said, there's been no evidence that's been presented on this beyond just feelings and speculation. And as Rob Dorr from the Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus and law expert said, that Lindell is confusing unofficial election night reporting with the legal canvas, asking the Supreme Court for records to figure out whether he has a case. There's no cognitive dissonance in any of this. He lost by 45,000 votes. He was already saying before all the votes were even counted that he wasn't going to concede. And now he's moving forward to the detriment of the GOP's chances to win in November, of which I believe that this is the best opportunity with the best slate of candidates that the GOP has put forward in the time that I've been doing, being a talk show host here in Minnesota for the past decade. But without any evidence here, is this how you believe that we're supposed to go and conduct all of our elections, that the individuals who lose immediately call for a recount? We already have laws in place if there is a certain percentage, depending on where you are in the country, of the gap. If the percentage is small enough between two candidates, they automatically go to a recount. We just can't have it be that every single time a candidate loses and they're butt sore over it, they immediately go and demand a recount. That's not how any of this works. We'll get to more of your thoughts coming up in just a moment, 612-584-4565. But let's go ahead and hear from Mike Lindell himself. He posted this yesterday regarding how he wants to privately fund the statewide hand or recount and audit the ballots cast on in the August 11th primary. Here's what he had to say.
Hello, everyone. Mike Lindell here. For 6 years, I've been fighting to secure our elections. And today, I'm announcing the largest privately funded recount audit in U.S. history. As you know, my primary race for Minnesota governor had major deviations and anomalies on election night. Well, we've now analyzed the election night reporting from the August 11th Minnesota governor's primary, and what we found demands answers. During that election, reported vote totals actually went backwards 55 different times across 25 of Minnesota's 87 counties. In one county alone, the report identified 6 separate updates where the reported vote totals went down. Think about that. When does a vote total actually go backwards? Well, you look at this. As vote totals were also being reported, all 7 candidates' numbers in the Republican governor's race moved almost perfectly in sync, 99.79%, which is impossible without the use of an algorithm. 7 different candidates, votes coming in from different counties all over the state, and yet their numbers moved almost in lockstep with no spikes and no dumps ever. Why? I'll tell you why. Electronic voting machines. We have to hand count the paper ballots. One of the few good election laws that Minnesota actually does have is it allows candidates to do a full-on paper ballot recount with no machines. Also, we get to have observers in every place the ballots are counted, and we're allowed to contest the ballots. This is not a left or a right issue. Democrat Senator Amy Klobuchar, who's also running for Minnesota governor, has also advocated to get rid of the electronic voting machines and go to paper ballots hand counted. On that, Amy and I agree. In fact, did you know that on July 16th, President Trump declassified evidence from our intelligence agencies, both the CIA and the NIH, against Smartmatic and the other voting machine companies. That those
There's a little more here. Let me just stop really quick. The contention is ridiculous. It doesn't make any logical sense given the outcome of the election and what everybody knows about the candidates, and specifically who would want to run against whom they believe would be the easier win. The Democrats would have much rather have run against Mike Lindell over Lisa Demuth. If Mike Lindell doesn't understand that, then that's on him. But that's just the reality. He would be a more beatable candidate to Amy Klobuchar than Lisa Demuth, or maybe even Kendall Qualls. So is the assumption here supposed to be that the Republicans went and gamed the election? Because I think you and I both know that I haven't seen any evidence of that happening, on top of the fact of what I said earlier in the show, and that is when you consider just how outspent Republicans are every single election versus the DFL here in the state, they need to count every single dollar when it comes to their campaigning in the primary and the general. They think they're going to be wasting time, effort, and money to go and try to rig the election. And is that really the way that you want to go to appeal to the voters, Republican voters, to suggest through absence of pointing to exactly who may have committed this fraud, that it would be Republicans who went and committed this fraud that kept him from winning the primary on Tuesday? It makes no sense. In terms of the vote tallies, the vote tallies happen like this every single election cycle. Are there sometimes potentially shenanigans involved? Absolutely. But at the local level, when you have ballots coming in from precincts, there are mistakes that are made. There are numbers that are transposed. There are numbers that are corrected. The numbers fluctuate. Anybody who follows elections, anybody who goes and works monitoring elections, you know that this happens every single election cycle. This isn't some bizarro anomaly that suddenly just popped up. No, in my opinion, this is Mike Lindell's inability to realize that he lost this election, and the best thing that he could do for the state of Minnesota, for the party that he is supposed to be representing, is to go and support the candidates who actually won in the primary and move forward. But clearly, Mike Lindell is just in this for Mike Lindell. Because even if, let's just say for the sake of argument, that his claims were true, he does his ballot recount, and he actually did win this election, do you really think that that controversy is not going to carry over into the general election and absolutely keep him from winning against Amy Klobuchar? Of course it would. But there's no evidence of this at all, and no other candidates are complaining about this. Rob Dorr, not a single vote was counted wrong. No evidence of this. No evidence that a single vote count was wrong. No evidence that paper ballots differ from reported results. No proof that voting systems were uncertified. He's inventing a verification requirement that isn't even a statute. Let's get back to more of what Mike Lindell had to say.
Those agencies have kept hidden from us for years. We now are using that evidence, which will vindicate me in the Smartmatic case. If this recount is not enough to change the outcome of my election, it will definitely help the greater cause of getting rid of these voting machines across the country. These machines are...
Then focus your effort on getting rid of the voting machines. You can do two things here. You can say that you don't agree with the outcome of the election, but for the good of the party that you're supposed to be representing, you're going to concede and support the candidate, and you can move forward with investigating the machines. That would be a worthwhile use of your time and the influence that you have here in Minnesota, not what he's doing here, which is completely counterproductive to the party that he wants to represent and the attempts for the GOP to win statewide coming up in November.
And in 132 countries, which is 68% of the world. So why would the USA still be using them? For 6 years, we have fought the media, the deep state, the uniparty, the globalists, and the well-funded machine companies who tried to silence and destroy us. All because we want to get rid of these electronic voting machines and secure our elections and go to paper ballots hand counting. I believe this paper ballot recount and audit is the gateway to finally end the use of electronic voting machines in our USA elections. Please go to lindellplan.com and help us make this historic election audit and paper ballot recount happen. We are going to secure our election platforms and restore our great country together. Thank you, and God bless.
Was he just asking for dollars to do the recount? Is that what is he campaigning off of this, even though he's not running anymore? Listen, don't mistake my frustration over this as a slight on Mike Lindell as a person. I've interviewed Mike Lindell. He's accomplished a ton. He has a great story. It's inspirational to a lot of people. What Mike Lindell went through in previous years, different substance abuse problems. We talked about this at length years ago when I had a chance to interview him on a post-show podcast. Okay, it's an incredible story. It's an inspirational story. Then going and founding, MyPillow. I rest my head every night on a MyPillow. Every time I'm prepping the show, I put on my slippers and I walk around the house with them. I wear them when I'm prepping the show because the seat in my office is just a little bit too high, so my feet need like an extra half inch to hit the floor so I'm comfortable. So the slippers are perfect for that. My slippers are perfect for that. They're incredibly comfortable. I've had them for years, and they're still great. None of what I'm saying is against Mike Lindell as a person. Two things can be true at once, right? He's an inspirational story. He has an incredibly successful company, but he also lost this election. And now he's making it all about him to the detriment, again, of the party that he wanted to go and represent.
Hey, Mike, sit down, shut up. Go back to running the bar in Victoria. Oh, yeah, never mind. That was losing money, too.
612-584-4565 if you want to leave us a blast this morning here on the John Justice Show, presented by American Experiment. And thank you so much to everybody who's currently listening.
Good morning, John. The people calling in who are in support of Mike Lindell, yes, there is fraud in every election. But 45,000 votes, Mike Lindell, there is no way that the GOP manufactured enough of those, and the Democrats certainly didn't do it for Mike Lindell because they had too many other things. Look at the vote counts on either side. It's not like there was a big Democrat operation to get Lisa DeMuth in. So people, please, we have to start thinking more clearly and be smart about this. This is our chance to win this year. Mike Lindell needs to give this up. Way too many votes. I don't care what anomalies he's seen. And again, I haven't seen the evidence. The only time I've seen this even talked about is on Mike Lindell TV. No other place. You guys, just calm down and let's focus and win this. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Listen, great comments. Thank you so much. Keep them coming in. 612-584-4565. Even if you disagree with me. I'm happy to hear the other side to the argument regarding Mike Lindell's demand for a recount in the gubernatorial primary.
Hey, John, I got to disagree with you a little bit on the Mike Lindell thing. We know that Minnesota's corrupt. We know that they don't ask for ID. In fact, if you try to show ID, we know that you'll push your hand away and tell you you don't need it. I think if we want to check for corruption, let's check for corruption. We know it's there. And the fact that there's no evidence doesn't mean that it's not there.
But what kind of precedent are you setting? That this is going to happen every single election cycle with every single candidate when they don't win an election, and the argument is going to be that we have to do a recount because there could have been fraud involved? I'm sorry. I appreciate the comments. And again, my tone is not aimed at you specifically. But I default back to the previous statement. We just be smart about this. Be rational about this. Reverse engineer all of this. It makes zero sense whatsoever. You show me evidence of any kind that there was fraud that took place. But this idea that, yes, I don't have faith or trust in our system. I've been highlighting on the show this week the fact that we have ridiculous election laws put forward by Democrats in order to make it easy for as many people to vote as possible, including people who aren't here legally. I get all of that. The Democrats will argue that they've put all these safeguards in place all along the way, but they've offered up this low barrier to entry regarding voting that makes us susceptible to voter fraud and then makes us have to trust the system to go and do the checks and balances. Those are all legitimate, genuine concerns. But what we're talking about here is something completely different when it comes to a primary election wherein there is no controversy from anybody else, no claims of fraud from any other candidates, and you have one individual who's basically acting like a big, fat, sore loser and can't just concede and admit the fact that he lost this election. And before you leave a blast saying, well, if we do this audit, we'll have taken care of it, give me a break already. Because I can already, I've been doing this long enough, I can already hear the comments going, well, if we conduct this audit on a statewide level, then we can expose any potential fraud if there is any, and then we'll have tackled the problem. And no, that's not going to be the precedent that's set. Because in order for that to be true, then we have to go and actually change the election laws. And depending on what the outcome of the election is in November, there's no guarantee that any of these laws that I'm concerned about and you're concerned about are actually going to go and change. Let's get back to some of your thoughts on the Blaster line, 612-584-4565.
John, you've never looked for the evidence, ever.
Is that my job? Am I an election official? Is my job as a talk show host to go and look for evidence of election fraud? I'm sorry, I didn't see that in my job description here at American Experiment or in any of my previous gigs. I think you misunderstand what my role is as a talk show host.
It isn't dead people voting or illegals voting. It's the system itself. Okay? Space Force caught it in 2020. The NSA caught it in 2020. Mike Lindell caught it in 2020. Patrick Byrne caught it in 2020.
Hey, producer Devin, can you help me out here for just a second here? What year is it right now?
Carry the 2026.
2026. Okay. If my math is correct, she's talking about things about 6 years ago, right? That aren't, is that, I believe so. Is that right? Okay. I know. I don't want to drag you in on this. I know you're just the producer of the show, but I figured just some basic math would be okay. You're okay with that? Okay. I'm glad I made a proper assumption.
They have the evidence. They've shown the evidence. You've never looked for it.
Again, that's not my job. What evidence are you talking about? The 2020 evidence? We're talking about 2026. We're talking about a primary that just took place like a week or so ago. We're talking about that primary. We're not talking about 2026. And I'm a talk show host. I'm not an investigative journalist. Neither is Mike Lindell, for that matter. Let's get back to some more of your thoughts from the Blaster line this morning.
It's become pointless to talk to you about the Mike Lindell thing because you have your mind made up and all you want to do is argue about it. You have your opinion. Other people have their opinion. Mike Lindell has his opinion. Can we just move on to a different topic, please? It's getting old.
Unfortunately, it's not going away. I had avoided this until this popped up on my radar yesterday. Among the claims, as you heard, Lindell said that vote totals moved backwards during reporting and that some counties reported more votes than ballots cast. He did not provide evidence in his announcement claiming those alleged irregularities affected certified results. All right, let me take another angle on this because I know I'm annoying some of you people, and I'm not going to apologize. If you're getting annoyed, that's a choice that you're making. To be angered and annoyed is a choice. If you take anything away from the show today, to be offended is a choice. You made a choice to listen to the show. That's on you. And I hope you continue to do so, because what fun would it be if you agreed with me all the time? Especially my ridiculous stances when it comes to the Super Bowl and to debates. That's probably some of my worst takes as of late. Here's where I get frustrated as we start to close out this show, is that Mike Lindell does carry, weight, right? Like I said, none of what I'm talking about this morning is any slight on the man at all. And two things can be true at once, okay? I think he's a great American. I think he genuinely cares about this country. I also think what we're seeing right now is a bit of selfishness on his part. Okay? So two things can be true at once. But that being said, because of the influence that he carries and his concern over election fraud, there's a lot of good that he could do to go and tackle election fraud. Like real concerns over what we're hearing from former election judges. I have some audio that I'll share of Cam Higbee here in a little bit, being an advocate for supporting the candidates that did win the primary, so the GOP can win statewide, so we can actually go and enact some voter integrity so that we don't have to be as concerned about voter fraud. That would be a good use of his energy and time. I'll provide you that example here coming up in just a moment as we close in on hour 3 here on the John Justice Show. I just want to take a moment and remind you that if you need to get away and escape for a while and relax from all the content that we share on the show, which I hope you listen and continue to listen every single day, head on over to MiniLeaf, MINNELEAF.com, and check out their wide array of fantastic products. The fun gummies, if you're looking to chill out. The spooky mini leaf tonics, delicious flavors on the mini leaf tonics, by the way. Brewed right here in Eden Prairie. All the packaging from Mini Leaf is done locally. And that's because Eric and his wife that run Mini Leaf, they love Minnesota. And they want you to live a better life through their products. And that certainly has been the case with me when it comes to the night gummies. They've been the absolute game changer in getting my sleep back on track. They taste great. They're all the products are third-party tested, made with all natural ingredients. You will taste happy and potentially get a good night's sleep just like me with their night gummies. All you have to do is head on over to MiniLeaf.com. That's MINNELEAF.com. That's MiniLeaf.com. We're entering into the third hour here on the John Justice Show, presented by American Experiment. As I mentioned at the top of the show, we have brand new social media accounts specifically for the John Justice Show. If you head on over to TikTok, search for John Justice Show, Jon, you can follow the John Justice Show there. Also, the John Justice Show on Instagram. Never miss the highlights from the show on our new social media channels. So when you have a moment, and if you're on those platforms, give us a follow. We would greatly appreciate it. Remember, you can catch the replay of the John Justice Show as it airs live right now, where you can watch on Facebook and on YouTube at Center of the American Experiment. Also up on X at MN Think Tank on X. You can listen live to the audio feed, the MixLR app, where you can get caught up with the podcasts as well. And I believe we got yesterday's put up. Yeah, okay. We had some issues yesterday where yesterday's show did not get posted on the MixLR app, so I apologize for that. But producer Devin has gone and remedied that for those that were wanting to listen to yesterday's show. And it was a packed show yesterday. Speaking of the election, as we talk about Mike Lindell wanting to launch the largest paper ballot recount audit of its kind in U.S. history without having any tangible evidence of election fraud. We talked with Ryan Wilson, Lieutenant Governor candidate for Lisa Dama's campaign on yesterday's show. Also had the chance to go and talk with Liz Collin as well. I had a great interview with Eric Lippman yesterday. So if you missed the podcast, be sure to check it out on the podcast platforms, available now on MixLR and also across the other podcast platforms that you listen to. All right. Mike Lindell, as we've been talking about, got a lot of comments that have rolled in, and we'll move over to Amy Klobuchar. We have audio of her to share. Mike Lindell, who lost the Minnesota GOP gubernatorial primary, announced plans to privately fund the statewide hand recount and audit of ballots, citing alleged voting irregularities in election night reporting data. He claims the vote totals moved backwards, and some counties reported more votes than ballots cast, though he provided no evidence of those irregularities affected by the results. Let's get back to some of your thoughts, including friend of the show, lawyer James Dickey, who has some thoughts on this, has left us a blast at 612.
Hey, John, it's James Dickey.
4565.
I wanted to make the comment that Minnesota does use paper ballots for every election, and we use scanners, tabulators that take those paper ballots and translate them into cast votes. And after every general election, randomly selected precincts are hand counted to check the machine's accuracy. So if Mike Lindell wants to pay for a full recount and prove to everybody that he lost and that the fraud in our elections is not from the machines, but it's from people showing up to vote who shouldn't be voting, or, ineligible people registering to vote, and the law allows him to do that, then I say go ahead.
Thank you. 4-5.
Good morning, John and Alan Silk River. Hopefully this is the final step for Lindell to just disappear back to making his awesome pillows. Let him do the recount. He's privately funding it. Who gives a shit? Maybe he'll just go away.
Well, I care. I do care. Listen, he can do what he wants to do, but make no mistake, this is not going to be to the benefit of any of the GOP candidates that won. Therein lies the problem. You know, if Mike Lindell wants to go and spend his money, although it seems as if he's trying to gather up funds to go and pay for this, he can. If people want to go and support it, they can. I'm just curious what happens if he goes and does this audit and doesn't get the results that he wants. Is he going to lament the damage that might have been done to the candidates heading into November? Because make no mistake, the DFL will run on this. They will absolutely use what Mike Lindell is doing and then cast criticism across the entirety of the GOP candidates for the stunt that Mike Lindell is attempting to pull off here.
Hey, Mikey, this kind of spoiled temper tantrum narcissism is the exact reason you lost the election.
And this is what I was referring to a moment ago, because this is where I think the energy could be spent. Continue to focus on the GOP's need to win elections to bring about election integrity. Cam Higbee, who was there with James O'Keefe when they did their voter vouching stunt on primary day, he had the chance to talk to a former Minneapolis head election judge who wanted to remain anonymous, talking about homeless people being able to vote in our elections. Here is that exchange that Cam Higbee posted on X this week.
In the training, they emphasized, this wasn't in the earlier trainings, this might have started maybe about 2017, 18. They made it a point that if a person came in and they were homeless, we had to really work hard to letting them vote without an address.
How do you know that they're in the precinct?
And the way we know is you ask them, well, where do you usually sleep? So if they say they sleep under such and such a bridge, if that bridge is in your precinct, then they can vote in your precinct.
Wow.
That's not in the manual, but it's in the training.
Who trained you guys?
The election people, whatever.
Yeah.
And they're at a new place now, but I remember the room. It was on Harding Avenue. That's not where the election judge training happens now, but I remember it was on Harding Avenue. So it might have been around 2018 when that started manifesting in the training.
And there are legitimate concerns. But do you really think that this is the way that we go and address them, by calling into question the legitimacy of the vote count on the GOP side? None of it tracks or makes sense for me, or to many of you.
Here we go again. The Republicans shooting themselves in the foot. If Mike Lindell keeps pushing this, we're going to end up with Amy Klobuchar for sure.
Yeah, and I'm going to share all the reasons why that's a scary prospect coming up on the show. I have some Amy news to dive into. I do want to get through a handful of your blasts this morning here on the John Justice Show, presented by American Experiment.
Good morning, John. Paul from Brooklyn Park. So I was going to vote for Lisa Damouz anyway, and I'm glad I did, because the way Mike's handling this, if Mike could beat Lisa fair and square, I would be voting for Mike. I'm going to support the Republicans because you just can't support these Democrats. He could do a lot for the party by just getting behind her and saying, I want to fix voting in the state so Lisa can have a good chance to beat Amy. That's what he needs to do. Get in line, Mike. You know, congratulations on getting your life in order, but get on board here.
Yeah, and that's probably what is most frustrating to me, is that it's wasted effort where there is influence that Mike Lindell carries, and it's, in my view, it's simply being squandered. Let's get back to a few more of your thoughts, and then we'll turn our attention over to Amy Klobuchar.
Good morning, John. This is Vinny.
talking about Mike Lindell not winning the nomination. Going to say it like my wife did. The reason Mike Lindell did not win is because he's not good looking. And the truth is, a lot of people vote by somebody's appearance more than they do by their qualifications. Well, to a lot of people, Mike Lindell is not good looking.
Was that the same guy that got the I don't have any integrity because I don't look like I sound? Is that the same? Yes. Thank you, Vinny, for the blast. I could not disagree with you more. I won't spend the rest of the show going through who I believe are unattractive candidates or those serving in official capacities, and it's all very subjective. No, I think that the amnesty plan that he put forward is probably a bigger factor as to why Mike Lindell lost. Not how he looks. I just is he an unattractive dude? I never considered Mike Lindell that. Producer Isaac has joined us, taking over for Devin. Do you have any thoughts either way over the handsomeness of Mike Lindell?
Absolutely brutal for that to be the first question.
This morning. The facial hair kind of works for him. I don't think I've ever seen him without the mustache, but I think the mustache works for him. I would dare to say he's kind of a handsome dude.
Okay.
Whatever.
Sure.
I say that with the staunch record of heterosexuality. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah, fair enough.
Just saying, All right, let's get back to some of your thoughts this morning.
I know Mike's a lot of bluster, but the question he brings up is something about machines rolling back. Is there a logical explanation to that? Let's not blow that off. But I agree with you. He needs to give up and move on. Good luck. Good show, John. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. And thank you for the kind words this morning. I greatly appreciate it.
I wonder if this was the plan all along for Mike Lindell, that if he lost, he was going to contest the election and look for more evidence of fraud. That just makes sense to me that perhaps that was his complete goal. I personally didn't vote for him because I don't think he can win against Amy Klobuchar. So that was why my vote didn't go his way.
Well, it all started on election night. I mean, even as the votes were still rolling in, Mike Lindell was saying he wasn't going to concede. So whether it was a plan all along, we don't know.
I think the problem is this. We know that there's cheating in the elections. He needed to get standing, so he had to run in an election so he could pull all of this stuff to try to prove it. But he did it in a primary where there's going to be far less cheating than there would be in the actual general election. But he didn't win, so he can't get into the general election to get standing in that. So he's trying to prove what we've all known for years, and he's doing us a favor. He's just going about it in a way that is perhaps a little bit clunky, I guess.
One person's clunky is another person's undermining. Because as I said, this undermines all of the slate of candidates on the GOP side to have this being in the background. Because wherein you don't have local media, say, talking about Derek Chauvin's attorney and his bombshell claim that Thief Ellison and Dim Walls didn't convene a grand jury in the indictment against Derek Chauvin, it's missing from all of the media outlets. But I can tell you, you know what they are all covering on their front pages? This story. Every single one of them. And why do you think they're doing that? You know exactly why they're doing that. They're doing that because they want to undermine Republicans, because that's what this will do. It's a sideshow that's a distraction and not beneficial to the GOP.
You can concede the election and work in conjunction with the new Republican governor to implement voter integrity laws, or you can continue to fight the election results of the primary and bring more viewers to your TV channel.
That's true. Maybe I should maybe I should run for office, lose, and then say that I refuse to back down and then try to get more people to the show. Have we thought about that? Should let's convene the comms today, Isaac. Let's convene the cabal of comms here at American Experiment. Let's plot our way towards getting new individuals to listen and watch the show online. You're regretting coming in now, aren't you?
Not at all.
He's like, why did I agree to go and fill in? I didn't realize I was going to have to be subjected to these shenanigans. I got a text that rolled in. If anyone should want a recount, it's Kendall Qualls because he was the endorsed candidate. That's a fantastic point. And other people made the point, too, that when you actually look at the vote totals and the number of individuals that came out to vote for Amy Klobuchar, it doesn't lead into any of the claims that Mike Lindell is making regarding voting fraud occurring, benefiting, Lisa Damuth in this campaign. All right, one more and we'll move over to some other issues.
Hi, I'm calling in about Mike Lindell. Mike Lindell was shut down by every judge that he could come upon to make sure that the machines were accurate. So now I decided to run for governor. Well, if he has a recount, maybe it's going to prove to everybody that the machines are not reliable. Sorry. I can't. That's terrible. I got to redo it.
No, you were fine. You were totally good. You had it. You were right. Thank you for the comment. I got you. Oh, that's unfortunate. I know what that's like, though. I record everything for live. I hate doing it. Really, where it really comes down to? It comes down to editing. I just hate doing editing. But since I do a live show, I just don't like it when I have to go and splice things up. So when I record social media posts, I just do them all in one take, which often requires me to start and stop all the time. Because a little unknown fact among most individuals when it comes to hosts who do live shows, at least if this is the case for me, is that often it's harder to go and record something because mentally that you can start and stop. Isaac's shaking his head. You know what I'm talking about.
No, that's legit.
Yeah, it's completely 100%. Legit. The moment you know that you're recording, it's like for some reason there's a trigger in your head where if you just go and say one thing, it's like, oh, I can stop it and start it over. You can't do that when you're live. So when you're live, you just get to make all the mistakes and conflate words. And that's my favorite, by the way, when people leave me blasts and they talk about how, I took two words and I combined them mistakenly when I was talking, and they want to go and leave a comment and let me know that happened. It's fantastic. It's the best. Totally not saying that happened this morning, by the way. Just want to say for the sake of argument, totally not saying that happened this morning, and that I wasn't completely pleased that somebody had pointed that out. It was amazing. Best part of my morning.
Wow.
Yeah.
Tough morning.
John.justice at americanexperiment.org. Quite on the contrary, my friend. It's actually been a fantastic morning despite that. So that's a daily occurrence, by the way. That's not something that's not a rarity. That happens all the time. This is the best audience that I've ever had in my 30 years of being a talk show host here in Minnesota. Previous job, and certainly now here at American Experiment, just continues to prove the loyalty of you, the listener. And I can't tell you how appreciative I am. There is a big butt coming here, though. Let me just tell you, there's a huge, massive butt. It's just going right here. But I've also never had an audience that nitpicks as much as this one ever in my life. I don't know. It must be the Minnesota nice thing. That's the only thing that I can attribute it to. A lot of times it's beneficial. People can call out certain things and maybe I'm not aware of it. I appreciate a little constructive criticism, right? If my wife is listening right now, she's going, no, he doesn't. He hates criticism. All right, let's do this. We will continue to fight for you. Those were the words of Amy Klobuchar touting remittance legislation in a resurfaced video during her time in the U.S. Senate. Before we take a quick break, let me go ahead and play this audio for you. It's incredibly relevant to the issues that we're faced with today regarding immigration, immigrants here in Minnesota. This was posted by Leftists of MN, an absolute follow up on X. Amy Klobuchar, during her time in the U.S. Senate, has supported efforts to improve the Somali remittances, and that comes with a lot of baggage. Here's what she said in this unearthed audio and video found by Leftists of MN.
Reduce the redundant regulations on remittances to Somalia. Now, we know you do your part, and that's why Congressman Ellison and Senator Franken and I work so hard to reduce the redundant regulations on remittances to Somalia, lessening the burdens for banks. We have more to do, but we will continue to fight for you.
There's more.
Thank you so much, Siad. Thank you for your leadership, for your many years of service to this community. Oh, thank you. Okay, very good. Okay, very good.
If a cheese grater could talk, it would sound like Amy Klobuchar. I almost don't want to disparage cheese graters that way. Did you want to chime in on that?
I was just going to say, don't insult the good cheese.
Yeah, I know. Maybe is there a, what is the, I'm trying to think of another, if a chainsaw could talk. A metal grinder, if a metal grinder could talk, is that a thing? I don't know. There's got to be an official name for it, right? I don't know why cheese grater just popped into my head. She's just so grating. All right, we'll get to the issue at hand. On a routine basis, Somalis living abroad send money to their relatives back in Somalia. Those funds are called remittances, and they make up a portion of the country's GDP. However, Somalia does not have a formal banking system, so the remittance process relies on a complicated network of independent money transferring through organizations and people on the ground in Somalia. Somalians living in Minnesota have sent unknown millions to Somalia through the remittance process. And during her time in the U.S. Senate, DFL Senator Amy Klobuchar has supported those efforts to improve the Somali remittance process, even though it's riddled with issues. We're going to dive into more of this coming up in just a moment. We'll certainly get to more of your thoughts from the Blaster line coming up in just a moment, 612-584-4565. And if you want to email, john.justice@americanexperiment.org.
And now, here's commentary on the latest issues facing Minnesotans from the hosts, policy fellows, and guests of American Experiment. For more content, head on over to the center of the American Experiment's YouTube page or at americanexperiment.org.
What's that thing that Keith Ellison said in the December 2021 meeting with fraudsters? Money is freedom. Money is power. Yeah, right? I mean, that's happening in Minnesota, and you don't just see it with public sector unions generally, but especially, look at the teachers union. It is like cartel levels of control that they hold over the DFL here in Minnesota. So even if there were some DFL legislators who, say, wanted school choice and thought it was a great policy, the teachers union is so against it and so against any meaningful reform that they really can't come out and support it because they're being funded, their campaigns are being run by the union.
Think about it. Now that school's out for the summer, how are Minnesota students doing? Not very well. Minnesota ACT scores fell again last year and are the lowest they've been in 10 years. In fact, fewer than half of Minnesota students can either read or do math at grade level. Think about it. We used to brag about our schools. Now we're losing to states like Mississippi. Visit americanexperiment.org for more information. Think About It is brought to you by Center of the American Experiment, Minnesota's think tank.
Minnesota is the second most generous state in the nation, spending $46,000 on public welfare per person in poverty in 2023. Second most generous.
Just really quick, if those people in poverty had the $46,000, they wouldn't be in poverty.
So I just would like to quickly point out
that the government is once again like the least efficient organization in the world.
Think about it. Minnesota has always been a low crime state. But according to the most recent Bureau of Criminal Apprehension data, we are now above the national average when it comes to Part 1 crimes, a category that includes crimes like murder, assault, rape, and carjackings. Think about it. Minnesota is now a high crime state. Visit highcrimemn.com to learn more. Think About It is brought to you by Center of the American Experiment, Minnesota's think tank.
It's John Justice, and be honest, your old self would be disappointed in you right now. That was certainly the case for me. And then I found the NutraWave program. You used to own the room, now you don't anymore. Let's change that starting right now. With no pills and no shots, NutraWave, over 13 years, has helped thousands of men and women lose the weight and keep it off for good. I've lost 25 pounds on this amazing program, and I cannot say enough good things about NutraWave. It all starts with a free Truth metabolic scan plus a free red light therapy session. You've got nothing to lose and everything to gain except all the weight. Spots are limited and they go fast. Call today at 952-260-1965. Mention the word strike. Again, 952-260-1965 and mention the word strike, and that almost $300 value is yours absolutely free. No pills, no shots. NutraWave at NutriWave.us. Proud sponsor here of the John Justice Show. Results may vary.
If you would like to support the John Justice Show, become an advertiser.
Competitive rates for both personal endorsements and standard ads are available. For more details, email john.justice@americanexperiment.org.
Yeah, we have new advertisers hopping on board very soon that we're excited about, and thank you to NutraWave and MiniLeaf. And just like that woman's voice said, john.justice@americanexperiment.org. You can leave us a blast at 612-584-4565 talking about Amy Klobuchar, leftist of MN Unearthed. Audio of Amy Klobuchar supporting the remittances. The video of Klobuchar back in 2017 speaking to a large crowd at what appears to be a hotel ballroom. Her remarks, she spoke about the multiple ways that she's advocated for Somalis. One of those happens to be remittances. Klobuchar was referring to the Money Remittances Improvement Act of 2014, working off an article here from Alpha News, a law which changed how money transfer organizations that facilitate remittances are regulated. Advocates of the law, which include former Republican Eric Paulson and then DFL Congressman Thief Ellison, said the law streamlined the remittance process, provided oversight of money transfers and organizations, and reduced regulatory burdens. You know, this was back when, okay, and I will end this in defense of the individuals and a bit to Amy Klobuchar here. I think the bigger takeaway is that she needs to be questioned about this now, given her past history. But there certainly wasn't the issue back then in 2017 that we see now regarding the amount of money that is leaving the state via these remittances, and the fact that it's been shown in various investigative reporting that I've covered in previous iterations of the show, that this money that ends up back in Somalia often ends up in the hands of terrorist organizations because of the very concern and the fact that there is no sort of formal banking system. So the money gets captured by these terrorist organizations that may be funding efforts to go and undermine Western values and us here in the United States. That speech and the underlying legislation that Klobuchar supported was just one instance of the senator's advocacy for improved Somali remittance process. And make no mistake, she's doing this not because she genuinely cares about the Somali community. She was doing this because she wants to capitalize, just like the DFL continues to want to capitalize on the votes of Somali immigrants here in Minnesota. She supported it back in 2012. There was further information back in 2015. Some, like Klobuchar, have said that remittances provide the Somali people a necessary lifeline. Others have long said that Al-Shabaab, as I was just mentioning, that's the terrorist organization. They use the Somali remittance system to fund their operations. Further, the Somali community in Minnesota has come under heavy scrutiny in recent years for its ties to fraud schemes and that stole record sums of taxpayer dollars. Again, as profiled here in the article from Alpha News, and Alpha News is absolutely right in that assessment, just as we were talking about on the show. The question is Amy Klobuchar, will Amy Klobuchar be questioned by media over her stance on this, given the controversies surrounding this particular program? This is me sitting here talking to you and not holding my breath. Let's go back to the blaster line this morning here on the John Justice Show.
Oh my gosh, that Amy Klobuchar clip is gold. That's where your fraud money went.
Yeah, that's where a lot of it went. You're absolutely right. Let's go here.
Good morning, John. Great show so far. At least cheese graters are useful.
So let's thank you for the comment. You're right. I love me some cheese, by the way. Just want to say that for the record. It does make me gaggy on occasion. It's true. Happens when you get older, Isaac. Yeah, it's just one of those things. Can't do the dairy. Can't do the dairy nearly as much as I did when I was a younger lad. All right, a couple more Amy Klobuchar clips and some comments that I have that I wanted to share with you. So it's funny to me. There's a little speaking tick that Amy has. She doesn't smile very often, hardly at all. Okay, I'm convinced, and this doesn't apply to all Democrat candidates, but there's a part of me. Let me put it this way: there's a part of me that believes that typically Amy Klobuchar smiles when she knows that she's straight up lying as opposed to the other time she's speaking. I just get that vibe. State Senator Michael Holstrom posted this flashback, and it's worth noting regarding Joe Biden's mental decline at his time in office, okay? And minutes before the debate on June 24th of 2024 that ended Biden's career, Amy Klobuchar took to national TV and basically just lied to everybody. We knew this back then, but now we actually have evidence. You had Barry Weiss interviewing Jake Tapper of CNN, and we played the audio, I believe, last week, where he laid out the Politburo. That's what they called it within the Biden administration. Those were the individuals that were tasked with essentially hiding Joe Biden's cognitive decline. Now, Amy Klobuchar was not alone in this camp of ridiculously defending Joe Biden's mental ability, his cognitive ability. You had Governor Dim Walz right at the next morning of the debate saying so. Amy said this beforehand, but here's what she had to say in this clip. And she's smiling widely in this clip, by the way.
And we need reform to ICE. We must have reform.
Oh. Sorry, that's the other clip I need to play. We're going to go
I've long believed and supported funding for Order at the Border, and I...
Oh, I'm sorry. I guess I grabbed the wrong clip there. Oh, that's my bad. Okay. So let me go ahead and share this with you. So my apologies here. So minutes before that debate, she got on national news and said that absolutely Joe Biden was sharp as a tack. All the time that she had spent with Joe Biden, she didn't see any signs whatsoever of his cognitive decline. And then, of course, we know what happened with that debate that transpired and ended up ending his career. So I do have a couple of other clips that I wanted to share with you. I just transposed the numbers there. So that is on me. I want to go back to Farm Fest just briefly, and then we're going to move over to some other issues and get back to some of your thoughts from the blaster line this morning at 612-584-4565. First, there was this clip during Farm Fest, wherein Amy Klobuchar went and essentially got booed by the audience over her comments about security and wanting to protect the people of Minnesota.
I've long believed and supported funding for Order at the Border, and I have worked well with law enforcement in Minnesota for years. But what Quiet. Wow. I ran the largest prosecutor's office in the state and was endorsed by police many, many times. So don't.
So don't. So don't. She got shaky, by the way. She was like it was an angry Amy in that moment. She was very angry. What did not get a lot of play, and this is what I wanted to mention. What didn't get a lot of play were the comments that Amy made right after she made that statement at Farm Fest.
We need reform to ICE. We must have reform, and if anyone wants to see what happened, $70 billion into ICE, so it's bigger than the FBI now. It's bigger than the Marines. I did not support that. I think that $70 billion extra dollars should go to you for your health care. That money should go to you for your housing, and it should go to you for your child care.
Okay, there's a couple of things about this, and this actually, this clip, in my opinion, should have gotten a lot more attention for a couple of different reasons. First, the content of what she was saying. She means what she says here, but much like the healthcare costs that she voted for, that she now believes that she can magically lower. We talked with John Phelan about this earlier in the week. If you missed it, be sure to go back and listen to the podcast. Check out his article about Amy Klobuchar's claims of what she wants to do to lower healthcare costs. It's not going to do anything of the such. But it's much like what she said here. The funding for the federal ICE agents, it's not applicable at all to what she's mentioning. It's not like if Democrat commies go and defund ICE, that Minnesotans are suddenly going to go and get that money. That's not how this works. That's what her suggestion was. That money that we're paying for ICE, that we're spending so much money for Immigration and Customs Enforcement, should go to you. How is that supposed to happen? That's not how any of these funding mechanisms work. Let me play the clip again.
Reform to ICE. We must have reform, and if anyone wants to see what happened. $70 billion into ICE, so it's bigger than the FBI now. It's bigger than the Marines. I did not support that. I think that $70 billion extra dollars should go to you for your health care. That money should go to you for your housing, and it should go to you for your child care.
The other aspect of this that I wanted to make mention, I am convinced more and more every single day, this is all beneath her. She does not want this job. She doesn't want to have to run for this job. She doesn't like, this is all my opinion. I don't believe that she had any desire to be governor of the state of Minnesota. I think that Amy Klobuchar was perfectly content being the senator of small things, not getting involved in anything really controversial, every election cycle popping up as if she has some chance to be the Democrat nominee, probably was looking towards 2028. And when I hear her talk and hear her get that angry and make was kind of a rookie mistake. I mean, that is a typical tactic of Democrats to go and conflate funding mechanisms on the federal level and then relate it to the state, because that makes no logical sense. And again, to go and imply, you can argue that ICE receives so much money. There's no context. She didn't provide any context as to why ICE is given as much money as they are compared to those other entities that she mentioned, which also have different funding mechanisms. But then to take it the step further and say that money should be going to you, that's not how that works. And that's a rookie mistake for somebody who's seasoned like Amy Klobuchar to make. It's a very hack thing for a politician on the left to go and do. But the other part of that, too, is just her anger. And my takeaway from the way that she talks in this clip and in other clips when she's held press conferences, she just feels like this job is beneath her. This is not what she wanted to do. She was forced to because Governor Tim Walz was an abject failure. She's taking one for the team and running for this office. Don't forget, she got ticked when there were DFLers at their convention a couple of months back that dare go and propose another candidate apart from her, even though there was no shot that trans individual was going to be able to garner any sort of, mount any challenge to Amy Klobuchar whatsoever. She was, from everything that we've heard of the reporting, ticked off that was even suggested. And it's rumored that she threatened to bail from the convention altogether because she was so pinkies up. How dare you go and put somebody ahead of me? She is vulnerable. And if and when there is a debate with her, just get her wound up, because you're going to get more of that. You're absolutely going to get more of that. That's not something that a candidate can just get rid of. Somebody that doesn't really want the job, somebody that wasn't sitting back forever and going, I want to be governor of Minnesota, now's my chance. No, that is the tone and the tenor and the commentary from an individual who was put in a position that they didn't want to be in, but decided to go ahead and move forward and take one to the team, probably because she knew that she was going to get the support for other avenues down the line. Let's get to some of your thoughts from the Blaster line.
It's funny to talk about her being angry because isn't there some story about her freaking out over a salad fork?
Yep, there is. There's a story about her berating individuals who served on her campaign staff. Let's get to some more of your thoughts from the Blaster line this morning.
Cheese grater doesn't accurately describe Amy Klobuchar's voice and demeanor. I would say it's more like an old rusty wheelbarrow with a really wobbly, squeaky tire that's about to fall apart. That would be her. Also, that one talkback about Mike Lindell not being attractive. How on earth did Amy Klobuchar get elected then?
That's not very nice. What do they say? They say beauty is right in the eye of the beholder. Right? Isn't that what they say, Isaac? Isn't that? I don't know what they say.
That is what they say.
Is that what they say? I didn't know if that phrase was lost on you young people or not.
That's
right?
what they say.
So much else of what I talk about in the show is lost on you guys. I don't know if that was. I'm glad that has actually transcended two other generations. That's really good to know. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Good morning, John. I really hate to nitpick you, but I think you're confusing Amy Klobuchar's insecure smirk for a smile.
Oh, okay. All right. See, that's an okay nitpick. That I'm all right with. You want to give me a hard time for not having the audio correct? You can do that. You can do that too. That was completely on me. You know what's funny about that? Just as a side note, I double checked everything this morning. I have no idea how that happened. I double checked all the audio clips today. Doesn't. It's the life of a talk show host, I guess. Let's get back to more of your thoughts.
Good morning, John. I just wonder if Amy Klobuchar ever does any inflection with her conversations when she's talking with real people. It seems like every time she talks, she's more like a computer or AI. I'm not sure. Have a good day.
Well, think of it as AI talks better than that. AI sounds all human now. Let's go back to some more of your thoughts.
Hey, John.
Yeah.
I see no evidence of a remittance problem to Somalia. Where's the evidence? Where's the evidence, John? Where is the evidence?
There has been evidence. It's been well documented. As a matter of fact, there was an entire investigation, and there was an abundance of coverage of millions of dollars being funneled out of MSP going to Al-Shabaab. You had a City Journal reported on it, and they actually had evidence. The problem is it's overseas and you can't go and get that money back. So I know what you were trying to do there, and I am very glad that you left the blast, if only because I could make you look foolish. Well, that's what they were trying to do.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah, they were trying to make me look foolish, and I just turned the tables on them.
Oh, how the turntables.
Right? Oh, how the turntables turn. That's right. That's right, my friend.
That's right.
That's a nice pull. Nicely done. Abdi Dassain. He's a Somali refugee and a St. Cloud businessman. He won the DFL primary for the Minnesota House District 14A, despite his daycare, Blooming Kids Child Care Center. Ooh, what a horrible name. Like if it was Bloomington Kids, I'll give it to you, but Blooming Kids, it doesn't really like. Do kids bloom? Is that a turntable of phrase, Isaac? He's facing numerous state licensing violations. Since July of 2024, the daycare has been cited for 16 violations, including prohibited disciplinary actions, lack of supervision, and safety concerns. These violations, which include a $400 fine for background study violations, add to a history of regulatory issues dating back to 2021. And again, this is the individual who won a DFL House primary. He was born in Somalia, Dassain, spent time in Kenya in a refugee camp before entering the United States, has owned Blooming Kids Child Care in St. Cloud since 2017. Alpha News first reported on the center's history of violations in 2024 when Dassain was making his first run for a House seat. He lost that race when incumbent Representative Bernie Perryman to incumbent Representative Republican Bernie Perryman. The violations, though, kept coming. Since that report, Blooming Kids has been cited for 16 violations across 3 subsequent licensing reviews, according to the Minnesota Department of Human Services. Records reviewed by Alpha News. Meanwhile, a 2023 BBC News Somali article featuring his wife is drawing attention online after she described crossing over the U.S.-Mexico border so that she could be with Dassain. Holy cow, I need the yarn and the cork board and the magic markers to put together the family tree of this individual who came from Kenya and then has a wife that came up from Mexico in the middle of running for office while running a daycare that had multiple violations. Who's on first? I don't know third base. I guarantee Isaac doesn't know that reference.
Who's on first? What's on second? I don't know who's on third. Come on, John.
Dude. Where'd you learn that from? How do you know that?
I'm a cultured man.
How do you know an Abbott and Costello routine? Did you know it was an Abbott and Costello routine?
No.
Okay. So there's my other point. But you did know the phrase. That's where it originally comes from.
I've seen the whole thing.
Oh, have you? It's Abbott. That's Abbott and Costello. Okay.
It's very funny.
Was it a family member that introduced this to you?
No, it was 6th grade.
Okay. All right.
We had to recite like poems or speeches or stuff, and one of my classmates did it.
Oh, well, good on that classmate. They are. I don't want to. He, okay.
Yeah.
Don't want to be misgendering anybody on this show, right? A very cultured individual.
Yes.
So hat tip to them. All right. Let's see here. The wife said, I smuggled myself and I jumped over the wall for my love. Aw. Where's that Hallmark story? I scaled the border, all for love. You know what? Maybe I'll write some poetry about that and make another AI song out of it. Maybe I'll do that for Freedom Friday. Can you tell we're getting close to the end of the show, and I know Freedom Friday is around the corner? I'm getting into that mindset. I smuggled myself and jumped over the wall for my love. Referring to Dessain, according to the English translation of the 2023 article. She's one of hundreds of Somalis who have jumped the U.S.-Mexico border wall. Oh, okay. So that makes a little bit more sense. Also provides some clarity of just how other illegal immigrants from other countries, not just from down south, are coming into the country via the porous border. Not anymore, thanks to Trump. During an October 16th 2024 licensing review, the DHS cited Blooming Kids for 7 violations. This whole article just goes and basically breaks down how the center was ultimately ordered to pay a $500 fine for 2 background study violations, including allowing an employee to work for nearly 7 months after the employee's background study expired. It's amazing to me that this business, the Blooming Kids daycare, could even go and stay open after all of this. Alpha News previously reported that Blooming Kids was also cited for multiple violations during licensing reviews conducted in 2021, 22, and 23. Despite all of this, this is now an individual who is the DFL House primary winner, going and wanting to be a representative here in Minnesota, and has gotten support from DFLers. Color me not surprised by any stretch. 612-584-4565. All right, let's go and talk with or hear from Andrew on the blaster line.
Blooming Kids Childcare? There's a Somali guy? Are you sure that you didn't go to the Leering Center and you meant to put grooming kids? Man, this world's so messed up.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was. Maybe it was a typo. Blooming Kids is odd. It's an odd.
Now, I'm not saying that Amy Klobuchar isn't just a stunningly, radiantly beautiful woman.
I'm sure to some people that she is, eye of the beholder, beauty, all that.
But to quote her, a clip that is never really been heard from her, she did say,
that was a reference to Lord of the Rings and Gollum there, Isaac, in case I'm assuming you're probably familiar with that as well, if you know that.
I've actually never seen Lord of the Rings.
See, this is what I'm talking about.
I know. I get ridiculed. I get ridiculed for it all the time.
Is it the Abbott and Costello routine line, but you don't know Lord of the Rings?
It's a good question.
I don't even know you that well, and I can tell you that you would be a massive Lord of the Rings fan. Huge. You look like you're from Lord of the Rings. I mean, it's a compliment.
I'll take your word for it.
You're a tall individual. You have long hair. You have facial hair. You just throw on the right outfit. Give you Aragorn's armor, and you're good to go.
I'll take it.
Watch some Lord of the Rings. It'll do you well. Was it a choice? Is it a choice that you've made not to watch? Next, you're going to tell me you've never seen Star Wars.
I mean, I've seen Star Wars.
Okay. All of them?
I think so.
Okay. All right, let's go here.
Good morning, John. I just wanted to mention with Amy Klobuchar, if you can't lead with intellect and servant leadership, then you typically lead with cruelty. That's probably why she has a reputation of being so mean.
Oh.
And I don't think the devil wears Prada, but I do think she wears Kohl's.
Yeah.
Have a good day.
The devil absolutely wears Kohl's. It's 100% true. I almost feel bad that I'm bringing this up right at the end of the show because this is going to make a lot of people mad. Just saying. I've been holding on to this one for a bit. I could be wrong. It is probably the most ridiculous thing that I've talked about this morning, apart from Mike Lindell wanting a statewide recount. Minneapolis operates a loan program for business owners who don't want to pay interest for religious reasons. And 1.4 million has already been issued through that program. The city's alternative financing program was created specifically to comply with Islamic or law or Sharia law, which prohibits charging or paying interest. Listen, doesn't it say in the Bible that thou shalt not payeth the interest, for thy is the will of God? Isn't that that's in the Bible, right? That's in one of the, I don't know which book or chapter, but it does. Thou shalt not to payeth the interest, for thy is the will of God. I only say that because it's part of my religion to not have to pay any interest either. So I just want to. Is it sacrilege that I made up a Bible verse? Is that
maybe?
I think I'm teetering on the brink here. My father's going to give me a call later on today. I know it. The city's alternative financing program. That's what it's called, right? Let's see. It's known as Ariba, R-I-B-A, not to be confused with the country singer, and instead relies on financing structures that generate a return without conventional interest. This launched in 2007, the Alternative Financing Program. It's issued loans to more than 48 businesses totaling $1.4 million, according to the information provided to Alpha News. 8 loans are currently active and have totaled $470,000 when they were dispersed. The Minneapolis City Council first approved the alternative financing program in 2006 as a complement to the city's 2% loan program that provides loans to city businesses. Now, the alternative financing program is drawing national attention after journalist Natalie Winters highlighted Minneapolis and their Sharia-compliant financing. Winters' social media post had a list of instances where Sharia-compliant financing is being promoted. It cracks me up. Cracks me up. That's not the right terminology. Drives me nuts. Just as an example, I remember, I think we all do, remember all of the separation of church and state arguments over and over again. Prayer in school, right? How many different examples? Religious exemptions when it comes to individuals who don't want to go or take a wedding photograph of a gay couple or bake a cake. And the list goes on and on and on and on and on, right? It's always targeted at Christianity. Always. And yet every single other religion, as long as it's beneficial for Democrats, gets catered to. I mean, why is this allowed, but yet anybody else simply could easily go and make up whatever religion they want? There's always the fictitious one for atheists that they use, the giant flying spaghetti monster. I think that's the one that atheists use all the time. Right? There's no reason why somebody can't go, well, you know what? My God, the spaghetti monster says, just like I was making the joke about what the Bible says, says that I shouldn't have to pay interest on these loans, or at least it should be, like at 2%. But if it's not politically expedient or advantageous for leftists, you get ignored, you get ridiculed. They tout, separation of church and state, and it doesn't happen. But here, you have those who lean into Sharia law, and you have the city of Minneapolis catering to them once again. It's the double standard. Sharia financing, as posted by Natalie Winters, is being adopted as an official government policy all across America. Dozens of examples of cities, states, and federal regulators changing loan programs, tax rules, and banking policy for economic development and plans to accommodate Islam. All because Democrats believe that it's beneficial to them to win elections in the future, to their own detriment, because if you have individuals who align with Sharia law, who get into positions of power, they will do everything they possibly can to undermine the values that have made the United States of America the greatest country on the planet. They will do everything to undermine the United States Constitution and our laws and our beliefs here in the West. And this will impact Democrats. It'll probably actually end up hitting them first. They're the ones, to their own detriment right now, that are putting themselves in league with these individuals who have come into the country that have no respect for the United States of America. And they think they're being so clever by aligning themselves with individuals who actually have a fundamental disagreement on so many issues, even with Democrats. But it is the enemy of my enemy is my friend. That's what's happening here. And they are catering to it, to their own demise, and ultimately to the demise of the values that you and I hold so dear, that we want to stay in place for our children and their children and future generations. In Minneapolis, the city government operates a program called the 2% Loan Program. That program allows businesses in the city to receive a loan from a private lender and have Minneapolis match that sum up to $75,000. Businesses can only use the money for equipment or to improve their building. Oh, okay. So, it's specific, guys. They have stipulations on it. So I guess that makes it totally fine. Is that what the argument is here? The private lender sets their own financial terms for its portion of the loan. Boy, that's nice. And Minneapolis charges 2% interest on its portion of the loan. The loan cannot exceed 10 years. The alternative financing program is a variation of the same program, but allows Muslims to obtain these programs without having to pay the 2% interest. Instead, Muslims using the alternative financing program pay a 2% rate of return charge. A private lender provides half of the financing at their rate of return, and the city provides the rest up to $75,000 at a 2% rate of return. That was according to a city spokesperson to Alpha News. In short, the city receives a financial return on the investment it made into the business rather than charging the interest on a set schedule. Despite the different terminology and structure, Minneapolis says it comes out the same financially. Not every loan, however, has been repaid as planned. Big shock. Some of these alternative financing loans and the 2% loans have resulted in default. Yeah, of course they have. Alternative financing can be used by Muslims, and non-Muslims alike. So you can take advantage of this if you want. Do you have to claim allegiance to Sharia law? I'm just out of curiosity. Here, somebody has an answer for me. I guess I wasn't too far off the mark of my my Bible verse.
Yeah, John, that rule from the Bible, all shall not pay interest on home loans, is actually from the book of Hesitation.
The book of Hesitation. One of my favorite books of the Bible, and the one does not get discussed nearly enough. Sharia-compliant products of various kinds are being used across the country, with Sharia-compliant home mortgage products being among them. In fact, the Minnesota Department of Revenue has specific instructions on how mortgage registry tax should be applied in Sharia-compliant home financing. Can you imagine? Let me replace the terminology here. You ready? Let's see. How do I want to word? Let's go. Let's just go with Christian. Christian-compliant products of various kinds are being used across the country, with Christian-compliant home mortgage products being among them. In fact, the Minnesota Department of Revenue has specific instructions on how mortgage registry tax should be applied to Christian-compliant home financing. Have they turned off the feed yet? Did they shut me down? Can't say those things, John. Only when you're talking about Sharia law. According to MDR, Christian-compliant home mortgages are often structured using cost plus profit components instead of principal plus to interest components that are traditional Minnesota mortgages. Yeah, this never in a million years would that happen. MDR's guidance on the Sharia-compliant mortgages says only the underlying cost of the house, not the fully amortized sum, should be subjected to the mortgage registry tax. I don't care. Listen, let me just back up here. Make it real simple. I don't care about any of this. There shouldn't be any special rules or privileges or anything like this at all applied to any religion whatsoever. If you're not going to cater to them all, if you're not going to have anybody that comes in and says, this is who I pray to every night, this is who I look to for guidance, this is my religion, if you're not going to make that applicable across, to everybody, then I'm sorry. And I know they're going to make an argument in here that says that Muslims and non-Muslims alike can take advantage of this, but that also means that as a Christian, you probably would have to be compromising your own belief system in order to go and take advantage of this, in which case I would not encourage or expect anybody who believes in the Lord God Almighty or the Bible to go and do something like this. told you it was going to make you mad. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. I do have something fun before we wrap the show up today, though. Let's go here to the blaster line.
There's a prohibition in the Old Testament against charging a fellow Israelite excessive interest or, the significant interest. So why aren't Christians allowed to also have a special exemption for that also? Why just Muslims?
You should. Thank you for that, Bob. Bob always bringing the facts when he leaves us a blast at 612-584-4565. All right, let's wrap up here. A couple of items before we end today's show and get ourselves ready for Freedom Friday tomorrow. Looking forward to it. There's a piece up at the Minnesota Reformer. I found it was quite comical. I checked it out. My son works down at MSP, so there's some relatability here, but it's also talking about immigration issues. I'll just read for you the AI summary, and I've gone through this article so you don't have to. Nick Benson, he's a flight data activist. He's tracked 5,000 immigrant detainees flown out of Minneapolis and the St. Paul International Airport since November of 2025. His work is supported by Minnesota 5501. This is a progressive organization that's behind the Hands Off and No Kings protests. So it tells you where this dude is coming from. It provides, according to the Minnesota Reformer, crucial information on deportation flights, particularly during Operation Metro Surge. Benson continues to monitor flights, advocating for transparency and hoping for legislative action to mandate public live streaming of the boarding process. All he does is what other people do, including, outlets like MSP Live that go down to the viewing area. They set up multiple times a week to go and present live coverage of the airports arriving and the airplanes arriving and departing from MSP. This is a thing that happens all around the country, right? Airline enthusiasts, aviation enthusiasts, my son included, Logan. They do this everywhere. And there's an MSP Live here that you can watch on YouTube where a couple times a week, they'll pop up and they will just spend a few hours and they have the whole setup. It looks fantastic. They're just tracking the arrivals and departures. And it's kind of a fun watch. I'm not an aviation enthusiast. I don't particularly like to fly, but it is fun to watch this. It's always fun to watch the planes coming and going. And they know the background on all the airlines and the planes and what types they are, how unique they are, how long they've been flying, all this stuff. That's all this guy is doing, but he's just doing it for ICE flights. That's it. He's just saying these are the ICE flights. He watches people go on the planes. He watches the planes leave, and then that's all. Now, the whole reason why he does it is because it puts forward this idea, because it's coming from a mindset that these people should not be deported at all. So in the mind of this Nick Benson, a flight data activist, he's doing a service by letting people know just how many flights are leaving. I'll tell you what, this has crossover appeal for Republicans. I don't know. That'd be kind of fun. I'd watch a live stream of deportation planes leaving MSP and having the number of individuals, accounted for who are hopping onto those flights and taking off. I'd be entertained by that just because it's great to see individuals being held accountable for coming into the country illegally. That's not the intent of this guy. The intent of this guy is to go and continue to vilify and demonize the Trump administration and their deportation efforts. So, hey, I guess good on him for finding a racket. Let me play this for you as we close out the show this morning. Stephen Miller, at the end of the Sean Hannity show, ended up going off on Democrats who have been essentially bending the knee to communists, especially regarding the issue of illegal immigration. Here's what he had to say.
Of our time right now, Sean, is the socialist communist takeover of the Democrat Party. You've gone through the list before. A political party that wants to abolish prisons and jails, that wants to abolish the border, abolish ICE, defund, dismantle, and destroy law enforcement. And as you just mentioned, Sean, they release illegal alien criminals who are raping and murdering innocent Americans. This is a political party unworthy of power, and they must be exposed. And that's what's going to happen at the midterm convention, Sean.
Well, it's time. You know what? It's game time. And I know people wait usually till after Labor Day. I'm not waiting. This is too important. 76 days away. Every American needs to know how crazy they are and the success and the changes that Donald Trump has made. Stephen Miller, always shy. We appreciate.
Love me some Stephen Miller, by the way. Always spitting truth. Thank you so much for hanging out on the show this morning. I'm going to give you a little bit of a preview of something that I'll play in its entirety on tomorrow's show. Before we wrap things up, though, remember, we have new John Justice Show social media channels. If you head on over to TikTok and search for John Justice, that's Jon, John Justice Show, you can follow the John Justice Show on TikTok. Also now on Instagram, the John Justice Show on Instagram. This way, you'll never miss the highlights that we're posting every single day from the show. Never miss a moment. Speaking of which, be sure to check out the podcast. Those will be posted shortly. They'll be up on the MixLR app, also across all available podcast platforms. You can watch a replay of the John Justice Show up on Rumble, also on Facebook and YouTube at Center of the American Experiment. So looking forward to tomorrow's show. We have Katherine Johnson, Grace Keating from the American Experiment podcast. If you have not listened to this week's American Experiment podcast, I encourage you, once you're done listening to this show, to go and download it on those same platforms of the podcast that I was just mentioning. Another fantastic episode this week. And I believe there's an interview with Byron York and John Hinderaker on this week's podcast. Is that right, Isaac? Isn't that?
That is correct.
On the backside of the American Experiment podcast?
Correct.
Yeah, John Hinderaker here at American Experiment interviews Byron York ahead of the 2026 Fall Briefing Battle for Congress, an event that you can attend coming up on September 19th. And it features Byron York as the key speaker. Head on over to AmericanExperiment.org and you can get details on that. And last mention, we'll be out at the Minnesota State Fair coming up on August 29th. I will be there 11 until 1 o'clock. And I think the majority of the individuals who come in on Freedom Friday will be there as well. We got a lot of great items to be given out. We have a wheel we'll be spinning. The Wrong Track Minnesota wheel. I don't know if that's the official name of it. Do we have an official name of it?
I don't know.
I just gave it an official name, Isaac. It's the
perfect
Wrong Track Minnesota Wheel of Destiny.
Love that.
And your destiny is getting free stuff. We've got a lot of it. We got some cool stuff too. I like the hacky sacks, even though I cannot hacky sack. I look like a fool trying to hacky sack. You can't hacky sack?
Not really.
You seem like the kind of guy that could do a hacky sack. I got a lot of profiling going on of Isaac over here. It's probably not warranted at all. I apologize ahead of time. All right, you good? All right, you good. All right, cool. He'll be here tomorrow too, along with Max Reimer and AK Kamara. So, all right, thank you so much for hanging out on today's show. We're going to go out with this. I'll play it in its entirety tomorrow, but friend of the show, Kenneth Toole, made a parody for us. It's called No Fraud Here, Just Everywhere Else. I'll give you a little bit of a preview, and then I'll talk to you guys tomorrow morning, starting at 6 a.m. for a Freedom Friday. God bless and enjoy the rest of your Thursday.
$250 million for meals that never hit a plate. Feeding our future, feeding luxury estates. Shell companies, fake kids, Mercedes and mansions. While the auditors shrugged and the checks kept advancing. Housing grants, Medicaid, autism meals on parade. Frauds, roulette, and flying in $500 million. Try 9 or more, they say. 90+ charge, conviction stacking high. Kids went hungry while the grifters took the sky. But they swear there's no voter fraud, not a single dirty vote. While the rest of the system's drowning in a money boat. High tax Minnesota, third highest rates we pay. Crime ain't even the worst, yet they still take it away. Look how silly the taxes, look how silly the trust. When the surplus vanishes and the fraud is a must. He speaks through static waves at dawn, a voice that lingers when night is gone. Twin cities hum with stories spun. John Justice rides the rising sun.